Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Fem Naruto is pregnant with Kakashi's baby. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. You can see through many things. As most of you have probably realized, my full name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. As in, Minato and Kushina's child. Obito and Rin gawked. They both looked at their teacher, and saw that his face was grave. They never saw him look that serious before. They turned to their teammate, Kakashi, and saw that he had furrowed his brows in confusion. Rin and Obito finally turned back to the Naruto, who didn't explain further. Minato wanted to confirm his suspicions, though. I have never gotten a woman pregnant before, I have never had before. Rin and Obito blushed. That would mean that you could have only come from the future. Kakashi interrupted in disbelief, finally getting it. He looked at Naruto, and thought through what had happened in the mission. Naruto had somehow known that Rin was going to be interrogated by a genjutsu. Rin had said that when they first found her, she had very large wounds, but there wasn't a sign of an enemy nearby. She didn't know where she was, and was confused with her age. She mentioned a kid's name that was most likely the same age as them, but they never heard of him before. Naruto seemed like she was from a different world, or more correctly, time. Rin had suspected that a little, but it sounded so far-fetched. There was no way. She checked Naruto's expression, looking for any signs of surprise, or maybe traces of lies. But she was shocked when she saw that Naruto was merely grinning. She looked back on when they first found her, much like how Kakashi had, and realized that it made sense. Naruto's confusion to her surroundings was evidence. Obito looked between the two blondes, and then back to Naruto. He felt a little dizzy, and decided to plop to the ground, surprising his two teammates. So let me get this straight. Naruto's the future child of my sensei's, meaning that she time traveled back here, and has really weighed hold on 13 plus 13 oh. 26 years old? He shrieked. The other 13-year-olds cringe. Naruto sighed. Not really. If you look at it like that, then it's really 30. Obito gaped. Somehow I shrunk back from being 17 to 13 again. So it's really just my mental state that's older. Shut up, furball. Huh? Rin and Obito piped, as Minato and the Hokage narrowed their eyes. Sorry, that was just. You know what? I'll just tell you. It would make life easier and better. Naruto rolled her eyes. She was really starting to feel like Shikamaru. This was getting troublesome. At first, it was fun to see the looks on their faces, but now it was getting annoying what with all their questions, and it was time to get down to business. I came back here, from I think it's about 18 years into the future, and Kyuubi, Minato and Sarutobi sucked in a breath. The Nine Tails? So it was true. Probably knows something about it. I was actually fighting to the death with Sasuke, the last Uchiha survivor. Obito widened his eyes before narrowing them. The last Uchiha? Survivor? Everyone looked at him, seeing as he was an Uchiha, and a proud one. They expected to see him maybe looked shocked and scared, but they were surprised to see that he was serious. Obito wanted answers. What happened to my clan? Naruto twitched, not at the tone he said it, but from how he would react when she told them. Everyone caught it, and realized that it was probably quite messy. Obito clenched his fists, waiting. I think, I'll tell you guys everything, starting from Kyuubi's attack. That got everyone's attention. Kyuubi attacked the village on the day I was born. The fourth stopped him, and sealed it into me. He wanted everyone to see me as a hero, their savior, but of course that didn't happen. No one really noticed how she avoided to look at Minato. They were too shocked. Everyone hated me, except for the very younger generations. The Sandaime made it a law that no one shall ever speak of the incident, and ever lay a hand on me. But that didn't stop them from expressing their scorn for me. Minato clenched his fists. Where was I in all of this? Where was Kushina? Naruto didn't look at him. Dead. Everyone was shocked at how bluntly she said it, and looked at her father in concern. Minato's fists were now shaking, his jaw clenched. How? You both died, protecting the village and I from the beast. Well, there's more to it. I think the Sandaime understands what happened though. The old man pinched the bridge of his nose. She sighed. Okay, I don't really know how I should put this, so I'll say everything I experienced and heard in order. I warn you, though. It's going to be long. They all nodded. They needed to know. After the attack I grew up, isolated and lived through the glares, the whispers, and the hatred. I didn't know why they hated me so much, and I felt alone. Until I met Sasuke. For the first time since she told them about the future, they saw her eyes light up in happiness. It was after the Uchiha massacre. Everyone sucked in a breath. Obito looked down with trembling fists. And Sasuke was the only one left, except for his brother, who was the one who assassinated the clan. Rin gasped, while everyone else was frozen, unable to utter a word. Naruto let out a shaky breath. We were 7 at that time, and that was the time he started getting all moody. Itachi said to him that if he were to kill him, Obito whipped his head up to see Naruto, and ran to her, grabbing her jacket. Itachi? You've got to be kidding me. He's my cousin, damn it. Was I also killed by him? Naruto's face was expressionless, while Obito's was the look of anger. Minato, who was closest to Naruto, held the boy's wrist firmly. Obito, let go, and let her explain everything. I understand that you're having trouble coping with all of this, but we need to know. No, you weren't. You were supposed to die in the cave. Naruto cringed. She could have worded it a little better. You pushed Kakashi out of the way from the boulder, resulting in you taking his place. Everyone whipped their heads at Obito's direction, who was shaking. So, you're saying, that if you hadn't appeared I would have. He trailed off, and Rin walked up to him to hold his shoulder firmly, wanting to comfort him. Kakashi looked down at his feet, feeling the guilt gnaw his heart. Naruto looked away. Yeah. That's what was supposed to happen. But also, if I hadn't appeared, Kakashi would have lost an eye, and you would have unlocked your Sharingan. Kakashi and Obito looked up with wide eyes. Obito, your right side was crushed by the boulder, and your left side was left unharmed. You forgot to give Kakashi a present for his success in going up a rank, am I correct? Obito nodded, and Kakashi stepped back in shock, realizing where this was going. As a late present, Obito, you gave Kakashi your left eye, your Sharingan, with Rin's help. Rin's legs gave in, and she sat down on the floor. Her face was streaked with tears, as she sobbed in her hands. Kakashi and Obito stared at each other, processing the information. Minato looked away from everyone, shutting his eyes as he clenched his fists. The Hokage gazed solemnly at his hands that rested on the desk. Naruto decided that the silent pause was dragging on for too long. Do you want me to continue? I can stop here, and wait for you guys to recover. Team 7 stood up straight and shook their heads, dismissing her suggestion. They were ninjas of Konohagakure, and they needed to protect their village. They couldn't try to ignore the opportunity of saving the village's future when it was just handed to them on a silver platter, now could they? The blonde told them everything, watching their expressions. She explained in detail, making sure they got the point. Naruto told them all that she could remember. They were pale throughout the whole timeline, getting paler by the minute. Obito shrunk back when he heard why Itachi did it, and was shaking uncontrollably when he heard about Sasuke's situation. He didn't want to know how he felt. Rin and Kakashi's eyes were wide, the Sandame's face was solemn, as was Minato's. Naruto choked on some parts, mostly when she talked about Sasuke. She looked away from everyone, knowing just what the looks on their faces were. When something great happened, it crashed down again. And the fourth great ninja war? That was probably worse than the other wars the world has faced. It's a wonder how they even survived fighting the legendary ninja zombies, and Uchiha Madara. Yeah, we weren't living the calm, peaceful life, of course. The future's a mess. I don't get how I got here, now you tell me. Naruto blanked out for a moment, a vacant look in her eyes. When she got back to normal, however, tears were forming. She used her sleeves to wipe them. She spoke in a weak, wavering voice. Kyuubi told me that Sasuke used a jutsu to send me back, and was probably trying to get me back to when we were kids so that I could change everything. Kyuubi used his chakra to send us further back, however, knowing that it was easier to start from the very beginning. I was supposed to be dead, but Sasuke, Naruto choked on her words, the tears falling even more. That idiot pushed his life force into me. Everyone looked away, knowing how hard it is for her to explain everything. And what made it worse for her was that she loved the Uchiha boy. Minato was glad that Naruto understood what he and Kushina wanted for her. He was glad that his daughter had grown up to be a kind-hearted, understanding and strong woman. His eyes softened as he smiled, looking down. Well, then I ended up here, and all that. I plan on changing the future completely, and I would need everyone's help. Naruto concluded, remembering what Itachi had strictly told her. She noticed the tense atmosphere in the room, and wanted to remove that. Everyone nodded, determined. She grinned, getting her smile back, which everyone was relieved for. I'm hungry. Is Ichiraku, you know, here? She rubbed the back of her head. Everyone faltered, already knowing her love for ramen. Minato smiled. Yeah, it's already made. Ichiraku's quite famous now. Naruto whooped, alright. Sarutobi had a hint of a smile. Now hold on, Naruto. We need to think up of a cover for you. Everyone would notice the similarity between you and Minato. The girl nodded, understanding his point. Oh right. Rin piped up this time. How about this? Naruto is Minato-sensei's long-lost sister, who was separated from him during the beginning of the war. Not many people know about Minato's family, and they would welcome her warmly. The third nodded, the idea was good. That's believable, and a very likely scenario. We'll stick with that. Minato smiled brightly. Then she could live with me. I have a spare room, and I want to get to know my sister a little better. Naruto grinned, liking the idea. You'll be a Chunin, and would be able to enter the Chunin exams. Since the other teams are full, and it's a good idea to let Naruto be with you for, she'll be a new addition to Team 7. Obito whooped, and the others smiled. Rin was happy she will no longer be the only female in the team, unlike other teams take that. Minato was happy, he could spend some time with his daughter, and Kakashi liked having the blonde around. Obito liked Naruto, they were like twins. Yeah, they were going to have a perfect time with the blonde Jinchuriki. Tucci and Minato's team was absolutely horrified when they saw how fast the girl could eat. She was currently at her 4th bowl. They had barely even finished their 1st or 2nd bowl. Rin's sweat dropped, as she weakly said, Naruto? Why don't you slow down? It's bad for your digestive system. Naruto blinked, and swallowed. And sheepishly scratched her head, oh right, sorry. I was hungry. But man, I'm stuffed. Kakashi snorted, catching everyone's attention. You eat like a pig. He blinked when he felt strong killing intent, and automatically reached for a kunai. He flinched when he realized that it was the pig who was leaking it. Naruto snapped her chopsticks unconsciously, scaring the people at the stand even further. Excuse me? She gave him a sickeningly sweet smile. And no, it's nothing at all. Kakashi squeaked, trying to avoid pissing off the already pissed girl. She returned back to normal immediately, the tense air evaporating in a second. The people at the stand let out the breath they've been holding in relief, and ate at peace. Tucci and Minato sighed, obviously experiencing this before with their own wife or girlfriend. Naruto chattered away to Rin. The blonde huffed. Honestly, I swear, he's such a prick. Well, I guess every Team 7 needs one. She rolled her eyes, as Rin giggled. Boys sometimes need a punch at the head, of course. They need someone to knock some sense into them. Naruto nodded at her logic. Obito had unconsciously been inching away from them, closer to Minato. He would never understand girls. Naruto looked around the streets feeling nostalgic. It was just like how it was before the Chunin exams incident. She grinned as she waved to a bunch of people who were whispering and waving back excitedly as they watched her walk with the famous yellow flash. It was different from the icy glares she received in her childhood, and was quite similar to the warm welcome she had when she came back from the talk with Pain. She noticed the route they were taking was very similar to the route she used to get back to her apartment, too. Minato watched in amusement as she soaked her surroundings in. He smiled when he saw her grin at the people around them, waving. When she finally realized where they were heading, Naruto stopped in her tracks. She turned to look up at Minato, eyes wide. You live here? Minato thought she was displeased at her new home, so when he turned only to see a pleasant smile on her face, he was quite surprised. He honestly didn't know why she looked so happy. The apartment was old and looked a little shabby, something females never likes. He thought it was fine, really, as long as it can provide good shelter and comfort. Well, yes, I'm sorry that it looks worn down and all. Hope you don't mind. Naruto blinked but widened her grin. It's not that. I used to live in the same apartment before it was blown away. Minato's lips quirked into a smile as his eyes crinkled upwards. Ah, that explains your good mood. Yup, I think Kakashi-sensei would have arrived by now. What's keeping him? Naruto groaned, and Rin nodded, also wondering what Obito did on a daily basis that got him late for every meeting. Kakashi twitched when he heard the sensei bit. He was definitely not used to it, and probably never will. But it did make him happy that his future student displayed affection for her teacher. It meant that he was doing a good job. Sorry I'm late guys. You see, there was this old lady that dropped her tomatoes down a hill, so naturally I just had to help. Naruto's eye twitched before she sighed. Well, at least your excuses are more believable. She rolled her eyes. But seriously, Obito, that doesn't take 4 hours. What happens if you're late for a mission? Kakashi shook his head. Obito's only late when we have team meetings. Naruto blinked. That was what Kakashi, of the future, often did too. Now that we're all here, can we get on with training? Minato nodded while Obito mumbled to her. You're awesome and all, but seriously, you should stop obsessing with training. You sound like Kakashi. Kakashi glared lightly, but Naruto just grinned. Yeah, I love training, so what? She stuck her tongue out. But at least he's getting better. I think he's just still getting used to the stick's absence from his A. Rin hurriedly spoke up, blushing. Let's just get on with the day, shall we? She pleaded. Minato nodded, shaking his head at his daughter's indecent use of words. Let's start with the usual spar. Obito, Rin, you both start first. The match was a taijutsu spar, seeing as both opponents weren't able to use ninjutsu. Obito's fire techniques were too dangerous, while Rin's strong point was hand-to-hand combat. She also used chakra to help her in speed. Naruto recognized that Rin's way of fighting was very similar to Sakura's before she became Tsunade's apprentice. It works well, but only against people who tire easily. Rin would have to lose both chakra and stamina, and can only use close-range combat, seeing as it was taijutsu. The blonde smirked. She could teach her some of what Sakura showed to her. Naruto had good enough control to be able to do a little of Sakura and Tsunade's method of taijutsu. Rin's chakra control was quite impressive, much like how Sakura had been. It's a good idea. Alright, that's enough. Minato spoke as he raised an eyebrow at Naruto's expression. Obito, it would be a good idea to learn more techniques. If you were to be against an opponent who you don't want to injure too badly, say a potential spy, you'd be restricted to using either taijutsu or D to C rank jutsus. It would cause you to be at a disadvantage. Rin, you were great, but you'll have to grow your chakra levels, stamina and learn long-range techniques. Obito and Rin nodded, keeping what he said in mind. Next, Kakashi, Naruto, you're up. Obito whooped, wanting to know who'd beat the other. He grudgingly admits that Kakashi was the strongest out of them, but now he didn't know who was the best. Naruto was pretty strong from what he had seen, and she had more experience, after all. Rin also thought the same, anticipating the match. Seeing as how Kakashi wasn't going to start first, Naruto formed her favorite hand seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 4 clones appeared, and along with Naruto, they formed a circle around Kakashi. Kakashi widened his eyes, knowing where this was going. As he expected, all of the clones and the original attacked him, giving him a hard time to find the original. He didn't notice one of them make another shadow clone appear behind him quietly, and didn't notice it run up to a tree. Minato widened his eyes at the tactic. It's very smart and perfect for one like Naruto, who has an extraordinary chakra level. Obito and Rin watched in amazement. They knew Naruto wasn't using anything she learned after she was 13, since she said it felt unfair. Kakashi was rather put off with that, but didn't say anything. The prodigy finally got rid of 4 of them, and was fighting off the one he expected to be the original. So imagine his surprise, when he kicked it and the blonde disappeared in a puff of smoke. He realized what Naruto did immediately. Kawari me with another clone. He growled in frustration, before looking around. Naruto stayed hidden in the tree, getting ready. It wouldn't be as great as Lee's or Guy's, but it would have to do. She stealthily went back down, and applied chakra to her muscles. She dashed across the field, looking like a yellow blur. When Kakashi noticed her, it was already too late. His face twisted in horror when he recognized where this was going. Instead of the green blur he was used to, it was a flash of yellow. She jumped and twisted her body to apply all of her strength to her foot. Konoha Senpu. Kakashi was sent backwards when Naruto's foot collided with his cheek. Obito and Rin gaped, as Minato struggled not to laugh, acting very concerned like the caring teacher he was. When Kakashi was still lying on the ground, Naruto swore, "Shit." She ran to him, checking for severe burns or anything. She really did it. I am so sorry, Kakashi. I didn't mean to hit you that hard. Kakashi's eyes screwed shut in pain, as he slowly propped to his elbows. The rest of the team came along too, worried. Kakashi, trying to save his pride, shook his head slowly. It's alright, I'm fine. When they were sure he's safe from harm, Obito grinned at Naruto, who was still apologizing. Man, you were awesome, Naruto. The girl shook her head furiously, still guilty. No, I used Lee's technique, which was something I learned from observing after I was 13. I cheated. Kakashi got up, patting dirt off his pants. That's not true. It showed that you were serious, which is something I'm thankful for. I wouldn't live with myself if I had been beaten by a girl my age who wasn't even trying. He smiled, which made Obito gape again. Rin rolled her eyes and smacked Obito lightly at the head. Naruto looked down so that she didn't see his face. What's wrong with her? She was used to the odd eye smiles she received from him before, so why not now? She fidgeted, and concluded that it was just because he didn't cover his left eye, and that he was younger. Yeah, that's it. Feeling more confident, she looked back at the team, who stared at her in concern. Minato coughed, gaining attention from everyone. Kakashi, you need to work a little more on your observation skills. It's very advanced, but people could mask into their surrounding quite well, although I'm still not sure how Naruto managed to do that, what with her very bright sense of fashion. He pointedly looked at her blue and orange jacket. Naruto, although you escaped quite well, it's probably a good idea if you change to a more darker color. Naruto sheepishly giggled. I was wearing black and orange before I time traveled. Kakashi deadpanned. How did he get beaten by this orange-obsessed girl? Was she even a female? Obito grinned. Well, he knew what to get her for her birthday. He has an extra set of goggles, which was quite new. Rin facepalmed. Minato rolled his eyes. That's an improvement. Naruto, I didn't really notice much mistakes or improvements you might need, but it would be easier on all of us if you wouldn't use a handicap. I think you would want to work on your other techniques, seeing as how you've returned to being 13 again, which causes you to have to relearn everything. Naruto nodded. But I can do that later. Can I show Rin something? She asked, excited. Minato nodded, and looked at Rin in confirmation. Is that alright with you? Yes, but what do you want to show me? She asked. Naruto just smirked, and Rin just knew, that that smirk was bad news. Alright, now that we have an idea of everyone's strength, let's get on to training our weak spots. You said that you would like to be like Tsunade Ban, correct? The young medic Nin nodded. Great, I know some things about her fighting style. It's not much, but I'm sure you can improve it, what with your amazing chakra control. Rin blushed at the praise and suddenly found her sandals interesting. Alright, so it goes like this. Obito and Kakashi glanced at the two girls in interest. They saw that Naruto was about to punch the ground, and wondered if Rin had somehow gotten her angry. So imagine their fright when they saw her form a large crater with her fist. They would never look at her the same way again. Ever. Minato watched in entertainment when he saw the horrified looks on the two boys' faces. He was surprised that Naruto knew how to use Tsunade's technique, but remembered that Naruto was her apprentice's best friend. He watched Rin's look of awe, eager to learn it. He turned back to Obito, who weakly mumbled. Note to self, never piss Naruto off. Result would be sickeningly unpleasant. Kakashi merely nodded. Kakashi sighed as he lied on his bed, facing up at the ceiling with his head on his folded arms. It had been a long day, and just after a mission, too. He thought back to what Naruto had revealed to them. He seriously couldn't imagine himself to be the goofy, perverted teacher she had listed him as. He was even more shocked that he'd take on the responsibility to be an instructor, Naruto's instructor. Had Naruto have never appeared, he would have lost an eye, and Obito would have been killed. Obito didn't get his Sharingan, but there was a hint of it. Obito's irises changed slightly when they fought the ninja, which pleased the boy greatly. It was like Naruto was an angel sent from heaven. Ever since Naruto's been around, Obito had gotten a little more mature, which was something Kakashi could definitely live with. He smiled as he rolled to the side. She was interesting, he'll give her that. Naru was woken up by the sound of the door banging, which was slightly muffled by her room's walls and door. She rubbed her eyes, trying to shake off some of her sleepiness, and checked the time. 7:30 a.m. She got out of bed drowsily, mumbling incoherent words. When she walked through the hallway, she heard a familiar feminine voice. The owner of the voice sounded very eager, seeing as how she kept pestering her dad. "What's this I hear about a long-lost sister? Is she up? Can I meet her?" Naruto had to blink twice when she saw the flaming red hair, squinting to make sure Minato was blocking the woman, standing at the door. She widened her eyes when she realized it was really her mom. She rushed to the bathroom to wash her face, and combed her long hair quickly. She dashed back out to the living room, keeping herself composed. This was a woman who she hadn't met, and has no relations except through Minato, her long-lost older brother. She chanted in her head. Minato hadn't noticed Naruto in the room, too busy trying to calm his girlfriend down. He had to warn Naruto first, who fortunately might still have slept through the racket. "Alright, I'll go check, Kushina. Hold on a moment." He was surprised to see Naru, who seemed to have already washed up. He coughed in his hand, and introduced the two to each other. "Kushina, meet Naruto, my sister. Naru, meet Kushina, my girlfriend." Kushina's eyes brightened up considerably. Naruto grinned, waving. "Hi, Kushina Nichan." That got a squeal out of her mom. "I never heard that she was this cute." She pushed her boyfriend out of the way, who yelped as he was sent crashing into the wall. "Hi, my name's Uzumaki Kushina. Nice to meet you." She crouched down and shook Naruto's hand, who blushed. She rubbed the back of her head. "The name's Yu Namikaze Naruto, but call me Naru. Pleased to meet ya." She looked back at the man who was supposedly the infamous Yellow Flash, twitching on the floor, a crack on where he hit against the wall. Kushina followed her gaze and laughed nervously. Minato? Are you alright?" He twitched in reply, as the cracks on the wall grew bigger. Naru and Kushina cringed when pieces of heavy wood broke off, and landed on Minato's most intimate place. Kakashi, Rin and Obito were very surprised to see a very pissed-off Minato limping as he was being supported by Naru, who had his arms slung around her shoulders with the other by a woman with bright red hair. They recognized her immediately. She occasionally came by to watch their training, and she was quite famous for her specialty in sealing, pranking and scaring the hell out of people. She was the red-hot-blooded habanero. "Minato-sensei? Naru? Kushina-san?" Rin, still in her surprised state. This was probably the first time they have ever seen their sensei that mad scratch that. This was their first time seeing him mad. He was always calm and collected, so what happened? Kushina and Naru grinned, and the other 13-year-olds gaped. If Naru had a red wig and paler skin, changed her eyes to darker blue contact lenses, and erased her whisker-like marks, she'd be an exact replica of her mother. "Hey kids, sorry I arrived so late. I had been attacked by a boar." Minato glared at Kushina, who glared back, while Naru chuckled weakly. Rin and Kakashi decided not to ask, not wanting to further irritate the already angry man. Obito didn't, however, oblivious to the tension. "A boar? Now that's worse than my excuses." He laughed, but shut up when his sensei merely looked at him. He yelped and hid behind Rin, who twitched an eye at his idiocy. Minato's dark chuckle turned into a full-blown, outright creepy, evil laugh. Naru then let go of him rather harshly, seeking shelter in her new teammates. She glomped Kakashi, who was the farthest away from the man, shivering in fear. The boy didn't have the heart to shove her away, seeing her distress, and he also wanted to cling onto someone himself. Kushina gaped, feeling horribly betrayed. She did the same then, but ran, fleeing for her life back to her own apartment. Minato's chakra spiked, and he started trembling now as he got up from his crumpled state on the floor. His eyes were shadowed by his hair, but Kakashi, Rin and Obito saw the insane smile that was plastered on their sensei's face. Poor little Naru buried her face into Kakashi's chest, sobbing. Everyone flinched when they heard the hysteria dripping from Minato's voice. "How about a little training session? It's been a long time since we've had that, don't you agree?" Naru would have piped up that she hasn't been with them very long, but when she felt Kakashi shudder, she decided against it. And she was still sobbing. Their training session would have sent even Guy a run for his money. When Kushina finally reached her apartment, safe and sound, she collapsed on the sofa. She let out a breath, and giggled. That was the first time she had ever gotten Minato so furious, and despite the fact that it was directed at her, she was laughing. She hasn't had that much fun in quite a while. But Naru was such a cute girl. Kushina squealed in a pillow, trying to muffle the sound so that she didn't disturb the neighbors. Minato would have trouble keeping all the boys away. She, of course, was going to protect that girl, but she would want her to get a boyfriend. Preferably a good-looking one, maybe one like Kakashi or Obito. She loved Naru already. She drifted off to sleep for a while, and was stirred an hour later. She got up at the sound of knocking, and rushed to open the door. She was pleasantly surprised to see Makoto, her best friend. "Hey Makoto, how's everything going?" she greeted. Makoto giggled at her cheerfulness. "Hello Kushina, you sound very happy, have you met the long-lost sister?" she inquired. That made Kushina's bright smile evolve into a grin. "Hell sorry, yeah, she is such a cutie. Before that, though, why don't you come in?" Kushina chattered about the young blonde girl while pouring some tea to their cups, as Makoto listened to every detail enthusiastically. She smiled and thanked her as she sipped. Kushina told her what she did to Minato rather guiltily, and Makoto laughed. "Wow, I can't wait to meet her now. You've gotten me impatient, Kushina," she pouted, and the redhead laughed. "Speaking of kids, how's little Itachi? 5 years old, was it? I haven't seen him in a while, with the missions and all that." Makoto smiled affectionately. "He's such a sweet child. He doesn't cry a lot and barely causes any trouble. He's so nice and sincere, that it's as if he's an angel in disguise. This one time, I feel like I have just been trampled by hundreds of bulls." Naru whined as she leaned against a tree, trying to stand. Kakashi's eye twitched uncontrollably. "Yeah? Well, I feel like I have just been trampled by 200. Obito whined louder. Rin's fist trembled with a nerve threatening to pop as her eyebrows went into a twitching frenzy. Minato watched the four, and was really regretting to not bring some popcorn. "Shut up, Naruto. Who was it that dragged your sorry ass through the whole laps?" "Oh, I remember, me." Naruto blinked at the obvious irritation in his voice and looked up in surprise. "Wow, you swore. Never knew you had it. Hey. Watch the face." Obito laughed as he pointed at her misfortune. He abruptly stopped and flinched when he felt a glare directed at him, remembering that he also made Rin pull him throughout the whole run. His neck craned as his head robotically turned to the brunette's direction, only to be sent flying from the punch. And Rin was glad she learned how to add chakra to her attacks beforehand. Until she saw the result of where she sent Obito to. Minato watched with forced amusement while Rin watched in horror as Obito crashed into Kakashi, forcing him forwards. Forcing Kakashi's lips to Naru's. Naru stuttered when he finally pulled away from her, and Kakashi took a step back. Wait, now he took millions. Naru traced her lips with her hand, trying to confirm what she had just experienced. As she stared wide-eyed, Kakashi did the same, staring right back at her. And Obito just had to open his mouth. Look on the bright side, Kakashi had his mask on. Naru cracked her knuckles with a look of pure, unadulterated hatred and ignored Obito's, "See, calm down, now. Stay away." The startled birds flew away from Konoha, along with the other birds that had lived nearby the village. Naru huffed as she walked away from the unconscious boy, and walked straight to Rin. She held her hands firmly, and Rin blinked at the seriousness in Naruto's dazzling blue eyes. "Rin, that kiss with Kakashi was nothing, you hear me? Don't think for a second that I was trying to abuse your feelings, 'cause it was all unintentional, got it?" Naru tightened her grip, although not so much as to hurt the brunette. Rin blinked several times more when she realized that Naru was trying to reassure her about the incident. She smiled. "I don't mind at all, Naru." Really, she didn't, and that worried her. Naru let go in surprise and tilted her head to show her confusion. What? I thought that you..." She trailed off, unable to comprehend what just happened. She was sure Kakashi-sensei told her that Rin had a crush or more on him, and seeing how crestfallen she was to hear that Kakashi would have left her made her even more sure about it. Rin still had her smile, but on the inside she was rolling around, very confused. She had a crush on Kakashi, or so she thought, but felt nothing except for the guilt when she saw him kiss Naru by her actions. Nothing. She didn't get it at all. Minato frowned, concerned for Rin. He noticed that she didn't have a hint of a lie when she said it didn't bother her, and how even she was surprised herself. Which was odd. He then remembered what had just happened and glared at Kakashi, who was still frozen. Who would have thought that the calm and collected, yellow flash was the overprotective dad type? Kakashi didn't know what to make of this. He had just lip-locked with his future student, and he only knew her for 2 weeks. To make it worse, he liked it. Oh dear lord, was he going to be the same perverted man his future self was? Was he going to shamelessly read the Uchiha series in public? His head started spinning, and was it just him, or did he feel some major killing intent? He twitched, knowing the only person who could emit such hatred for him that moment could only be either two blondes, but the younger one was too busy apologizing to Rin. That meant, Minato-sensei. He yelped, seeing the man attempt at glaring a hole through his head. What happened just now was completely unintentional. Obito was the one who shoved me into her. That kiss. Minato's glare intensified, so Kakashi changed his choice of words. That form of contact was not on purpose. He backed away slowly as his sensei had steam forming out of his ears. I can't believe that I kissed a guy by accident again. Naru whined, and everyone whipped their heads at her. Again, when was your first time? Was he cute? Rin gushed. Naru shifted uncomfortably and blushed. Oh right, I didn't mention it before, did I? I was pushed into Saw. She was cut off by a loud screech. Girls, Kakashi's here. Even more screeching. Kakashi widened his eyes, and placed Naru in front of him as a shield. The human shield's eye twitched, feeling as though she has been stuck in this position before. Oh, right, when Sasuke was too scared of facing his morbid fangirls. Judging by his strong grip on her shoulders, he was frightened. She tried to glare at him, but he only clenched harder. Ow, geez, what is your Gia? Apparently, the insane girls took their position the wrong way, and now she were being chased. What are you to Kakashi, huh? Who are you? Hey, get back here and explain, you nobody. Nobody? Naru ran all around the village in mute anger until she finally found an alley, the perfect hiding spot. She also only just remembered that she had dragged Kakashi with her in her panic, and looked around to find him crumpled on the floor, out in the open. Should she help him, after he just used her? But he might be tortured by the girls if she doesn't hide him soon. Naru really hated being a kind person. She dragged Kakashi into the narrow alley and climbed up using chakra the wall of a building as she swore the whole time through. She accidentally hit the boy against the wall as she held him by his sword's straps, and hoisted him up on the roof. God, what do they see in you? She poked him on the ribs, thinking he was still out cold. Until he twitched. Naru narrowed her eyes. You were awake the whole time? She paused, waiting for him to give up the act. Get up, you lying bastard. She jabbed him in the stomach when he didn't. Hard. He groaned in pain as he doubled over, and Naruto smirked in satisfaction. Kakashi glared. Geez, woman, are you even female? He pointedly stared at her breasts. Naru, mortified, trembled in absolute fury as she covered her chest. This idiot. Yes, they're bounded, idiot. I'm a kunoichi. What do you expect? And stop looking at me, pervert. Kakashi widened his eyes. Naru's words rang in his head non-stop. Pervert, pervert, pervert. Naru raised a brow. Kakashi? Oi, you there? Earth to eep. She yelped when he suddenly turned and held onto her shoulders, eyes wide with terror. Tell me, am I turning into the idiot my future self was? Naru blinked, startled, then laughed. She laughed. It's not funny. Haha. Kakashi, that's just priceless. You should have seen the look on your face. She clutched her sides. Hey, no, you're not like him at all. You're too stiff. Kakashi grunted as he looked away. There was an awkward pause, until Naruto broke out into another fit of laughter and Kakashi's lips twitched. Rin and Obito waved at the two as they walked back to where they left the team. Rin asked, where on earth have you been? Naru rolled her eyes. Kakashi acted like a damsel in distress, and counted on me to save his sorry ass. Kakashi glared. He pretended to faint, and I had to drag him all the way up a building to hide him. She blinked, as if remembering something. And I just found out that he was a pervert moments ago. Kakashi panicked, knowing Minato would skin him alive, and hurriedly shut her mouth. MMPH. Minato's eyes squinted at Kakashi in suspicion, before rolling his eyes. Obito grinned. Who would have thought, Rin giggled as Naru high-fived him. Minato felt rather guilty for the training he put them through, so he decided to give them a treat. Who's up for ramen? I'll pay. He saw the bright twinkle in his daughter's eyes, and regretted it immediately. Me. Obito snuck quick glances at Kakashi and Naru, who were both talking about training as they walked to the stand. Rin caught him, and elbowed his ribs lightly. I don't think they'll appreciate it if you keep looking at them like that. She whispered, raising an eyebrow as he grinned. He kept his voice low. Don't you think that those two have been a lot closer recently? I think forcing them to each other helped. Although it wasn't intentional. Rin nodded, also thinking the same. And, Kakashi got less arrogant ever since she came. I think it's a great idea to push them further together. What about you? Rin grinned at him. Yeah, count me in. Minato rolled his eyes at his student's antics. Trust Obito to try and play matchmaker. But he had to agree, Kakashi's been kinder recently, but it might have been because of what nearly happened to Obito. Although, he thought grimly, Kakashi seems to be interacting mostly with Naru. Kakashi suppressed the urge to smack Obito upside the head, as he heard everything he said thanks to his sensitive ears. He looked from the corner of his eyes to his left at Naru, who didn't seem to notice, seeing as she was farthest away from the Uchiha and was in deep thought. Kakashi was sure that Naru was only a friend to him, and an odd one at that. He sneaked a glance at the blonde, who added a bounce to every step she took. Hey Naru, what was your Kakashi like? The boy mentally face-palmed at how weird that sounded. Naru grinned as she remembered the tall, lazy, silver-haired man with his orange book in hand. At first I thought he was a bastard, since he acted like how you do right now. Kakashi faltered. But then I changed my mind when he said stuff about teamwork at the end of our test. I thought he was awesome. Kakashi's eyes widened a fraction, not expecting such a praise. Spending time with him was fun, even though he seemed mostly interested in reading porn. She smiled fondly. Kakashi shifted, wondering if he should, and then decided, how about me? He asked casually, trying to act mildly curious. Naru blinked in surprise, and thought for a minute. I think you're cool. Although you act a little cold and all, I have a good time when you're around. Kakashi was, to say the least, shocked. He thought that he was rather boring to be around, or too strict about things. But here was Naru telling him that she has a good time with him. Naru waved a hand in front of Kakashi when she noticed he stopped walking. Oi, Kakashi? You in there? She knocked his forehead protector. We're already here, you know? She looked to see that everyone else already sat and ordered, so she pulled on Kakashi's sleeve. It still bothered Naru to see Tucci with brown hair and not the gray she was used to, or the fact that Ayame wasn't working there and was currently at home playing with her dolls. She sat next to Rin, who was on her right, and Kakashi on her left, at the very end of the counter. Tucci-san, miso with lots of pork please. Tucci chuckled. It still surprises me how you already know what to order without the menu, Naru. She grinned, and was about to say something only to be cut off by a very loud voice. Hitaki Kakashi, my eternal rival. A bright green blur passed by her left, knocking Kakashi off his chair. Naru stifled a laugh and innocently looked to the side as Kakashi glared at her. He grits his teeth. Would you kindly get off, Guy? Naru couldn't stop it this time, she laughed. Guy got up and turned to her, forgetting to help his eternal rival up. You must be the lovely beauty of Konoha. I've heard many things about you, and I've heard that you are the Yellow Flash's long-lost sister, am I correct? Naru spluttered, the lovely, what? But yes, I'm his younger sister. She glared at Kakashi, who started smirking at her discomfort. Even though she couldn't see it, his smugness was radiating out of his form. He smirked. Naru's fists trembled in fury. Guy gave her a thumb up, his mouth stretched and showed his teeth that sparkled. Nice to meet you. I'm the beautiful green beast of Konoha, made a Guy. Naru could have sworn he had light shining all over himself. Kakashi got up, still smirking. Naru felt the need to punch him. So she did. And boy did she regret it when she saw Guy's sparkling grin widen. What a youthful... Naru resisted the urge to groan. Young lady. He slapped Kakashi's back repeatedly, unknowingly giving pain to the silver-haired Chunin. You lucky man. He chuckled loudly. All right. I challenge you to a duel for this lovely maiden's beautiful heart. The lovely maiden sobbed on Rin's shoulder, who encouragingly patted on her back. The Jinchuriki heard Kakashi sigh. You can have her for all I care. Naru shot up in panic, and just knew that the idiot was smirking again. She gave Guy and the others. Obito was laughing his ass off, a sweet smile. We'll be back in just a second. She didn't wait for their reply as she pulled Kakashi out of the stall by his ear. What the hell, Kakashi? Naru shrieked in his ear once they were farther away. Kakashi clutched his red ear. What? It's not like I like you or anything, and he seemed pretty infatuated with you. He smirked. Or did you want me to accept his challenge, Did you want me to be jealous? He hinted on the last word, and Naru turned red. No. I mean yes to the first, but no to the second. I don't want him to win my beautiful heart, Kakashi. Help me, she whined, pulling his arm down as she sobbed. Kakashi, clearly annoyed, tried in vain to shake her off. Why should I waste my time? Naru pleaded even more, giving him her ultimate puppy eyes. I'll do anything you tell me to. And I never go back on my words, Datbayo. Kakashi smirked, and Naru wanted to slap her head at her stupidity. Anything? For the rest of your life? Naru gawked. That wasn't what she said. But judging by his smug look, he wasn't going to agree with anything else. She weighed her chances. The main problem and probably the most embarrassing moment of her life was Guy winning by default and proclaiming he got his lovely maiden's beautiful heart to the whole world. But if she promised Kakashi to do anything he tells her to until the day she died, that wouldn't happen. Is it worth it? She glanced back at the stall and remembered those godawful bushy brows. She pinched the bridge of her nose, knowing she was going to regret this later. Yes, anything for the rest of my life, but only if you win. She regretted it already. But it's not like he's going to make her run around the streets or anything, and he does know that there were limits. Naru really needs to think of an escape plan before she killed Kakashi. She didn't look at his smug expression as they walked back to the ramen booth. She slumped on her chair, and whimpered on Rin's shoulder again. Everyone else snapped their heads to Kakashi's answer, stupefied. On second thought, I accept your challenge, Guy. Kakashi glanced at Naru, and smirked even more, and I really don't want to lose to this, either. Minato, Obito and Rin just wondered what Naru agreed to for Kakashi to change his mind and be this eager. They looked at her weeping form and concluded it to be a very, very dreadful for the blonde, but they understood that she had to take drastic measures. Obito and Rin shuddered at the sight of those eyebrows while Minato moaned along with his daughter. Guy grinned determinedly. Yosh. Then how about a youthful match on taijutsu? Naru fell off of her seat. But that's, Kakashi chirped, perfect, so should we start now? Naru looked appalled. But he's a taijutsu specialist. That's unfair. She went back to bawling her eyes out onto Rin's now soaked shoulder. We haven't even eaten yet. Guy blinked. Oh, yes, that was right. I was so caught up in the heat of it that I have forgotten to eat. Guy jabbed his index finger to Kakashi. We eat, then spar. Rin was about to say something, but stopped when she saw the cunning look in the silver-haired boy's eyes. After doing a lot of thinking about her situation, Naru just realized that she did a very stupid mistake. She could have just confronted Guy about it and tell him that it bothered her, since he was a gentleman, and gentlemen did not cause trouble to ladies. It's an unspoken rule. She slapped her head at her stupidity, and felt Kakashi's smirk directed at her. She was too distressed to care. There were too many things going on today for the poor blonde. She had been terrorized by her dad and probably did a year's worth of training. Kakashi was forced to kiss her. She was chased all around the town by his fangirls. She had to drag Kakashi up a building. She was questioned on her gender by the ungrateful Guy. Guy challenged Kakashi to a duel for her heart, and she sentenced herself to do anything Kakashi tells her to for the rest of her messed up life. Naru decided that this was the worst day of her messed up life. Chunin exams? Naruto asked, surprised. She had been in this time period for 4 weeks, nearly a month. They had decided to list her as Chunin, to make up for Kakashi who had been promoted. Rin, Obito, Naruto and other Chunin ninjas stood in front of the Hokage at his office. Sarutobi nodded. This exam does not include other hidden villages and it would be taking place here in Konoha. It starts 2 weeks from now, on the 11th of May. The judges would be Chunins, and I would be around to watch. Like for the final round of the Chunin exams, you will receive a number and we would assign you to another Chunin by that number. You would spar with them. The winner will go against the next, and so on until there is one person left. The people supervising would judge whether you are worthy of earning the rank by your skills, so even if you lose you would still have a chance. They would stop the match if it gets out of hand, since we don't want anyone dying. We need all the people we can get for us to survive this war. Everyone nodded, understanding. Everyone nodded, some relieved. He smiled to them, wishing them good luck. The Chunin went out, talking to each other excitedly. Obito stretched, finally. I can't wait, but I seriously don't want to go against you guys. He shuddered. Rin rolled her eyes, but smiled fondly. I don't want to go against you either, since you're too cowardly for my tastes. She teased, giggling when he blushed and stubbornly turned the other way. Naruto cocked an eyebrow. Since when were you guys all nice and friendly, eh? She grinned, and pumped a fist inwardly as she saw the two of them blush. Well, I don't mind going against you guys. I prefer Obito though. Rin seems tougher. Obito gaped, feeling betrayed. Hey guys, how was the meeting? Minato called out, next to Kakashi. Naruto brightened at the sight of them. Yo, Minato-sensei, Kakashi. She waved and ran to them, along with the other two. It was boring, Naruto complained, Obito nodding in agreement. Kakashi rolled his eyes. What did you expect? She glared heatedly at him, still mad at him for winning against Guy but somewhat relieved. She didn't know how she would react had bushy brows of this generation won. Those caterpillars made her shudder uncontrollably. Flashback. Once they finished eating, they went to the training grounds. Guy was flattering Naruto non-stop, much to Obito and Kakashi's amusement. Minato had been cursing the green beast as cruel as this may sound. He in no way saw the kid, beautiful, and Naruto inched closer to Rin, forcing a smile. They watched in silence as Kakashi and Guy stared each other down, waiting for the other to make a move. Naruto was stumped on who she wanted to support, seeing as both had unpleasant results. Kakashi would make her his slave, and Guy would be even more encouraged to grab hold of her love. Guy seemed to snap and attacked first, aiming a punch at Kakashi in the gut. The boy dodged, and grabbed his wrist. He pulled him forwards, driving his bent leg into Guy's stomach. The black-haired boy doubled over, but regained his strength quickly, narrowly avoiding Kakashi's kick at his back as he jumped. Kakashi jumped higher than Guy, and nearly slammed his leg down on his chest, only for the green-clad boy to twist in midair. They landed on the ground, but Guy was faster, and swept at Kakashi's feet. He jumped to avoid it, only to get kicked whilst he was in midair. He cursed Guy's flexibility as he clutched at his stomach. They exchanged several punches, kicks, and occasionally sweeps, until Kakashi was backed into a tree. Konoha Senpu. Kakashi managed to dodge, but was forced into the air from the impact. Guy took this chance, and slammed his leg onto his stomach. Kakashi hit the ground hard, which put a grin to the black-haired boy's face. Until he collapsed on the floor, face scrunched up in pain, clutching his right side, just below his ribs. Rin recognized this right away, and slapped her forehead. I knew it. Naruto blinked, and looked back and forth between her teammate and Guy. Huh? Kakashi slowly got up, brushing off the dust and dirt from his hair. He got a stomach cramp after eating, like I expected. He smirked. Naruto knew by his smug attitude, and walked back to the group. I win. The blonde girl looked horrified, and pointed an accusing finger at him. How did you not get it then? You ate as well. I ate less, and didn't move around as much as he did. He fell for the trap, he replied simply, agitating the girl. So, Obito piped up, grinning as he high-fived with him. What does Kakashi get for winning? Naruto yelped and hid behind her father when she saw Kakashi's cunning gaze. She'll follow commands like a dog for the rest of her miserable life. Both blondes glared at him, trying to burn a hole at his head. And she doesn't go back on her word, do you, Naruto? He smiled. Minato sighed as he looked at him sternly. Isn't that unfair on Naruto's part? She only asked for a favor, Kakashi. As your sensei, I'll limit it to 3 commands, so think of Naruto as a genie that grants you 3 wishes. Kakashi nodded, disgruntled, but he guessed it was unfair of him. The girl couldn't love her father any more than she already did, and hugged him tightly. End of crappy yet somewhat happily ever after flashback. Naruto blinked. It's been nearly 2 weeks since then, and Kakashi hasn't asked anything yet. She was hoping he would use it up, since she wanted to get it over with. As they walked to the training grounds, she snuck a glance at him. Unfortunately, he caught it. What do you want? Naruto huffed, and turned the other way. She heard him snort and talk to Obito as she whispered to Rin, do you know what he's up to? Rin looked at the silver-haired boy, then back at her blonde friend. What do you mean? Naruto crossed her arms on her chest. He hasn't asked for any wishes, she air quoted, to me yet. And, judging by how he loves annoying me, I was expecting him to jump at every opportunity, and use up all of it. Naruto pouted, but saw the look on Kakashi's face. She somehow took that as a silent, "I'm too smart for the likes of you." Her hands twitched at the thought of pulverizing him. Rin rolled her eyes at the two. "I don't know, people usually say that when a boy teases a girl, it means that he—" Naruto pulled the strands of her hair in irritation. "Don't you dare finish that sentence, Rin. I've heard that from Sai already." "Well, let me tell you, it ain't true, damn it." Kiba likes Hinata. That caused everyone to cast her strange looks, and she scratched her head and let out a nervous laugh. Minato sighed, "We're here now, so let's just go on with our techniques. Naruto, I'll work with you on the types of Rasengans you thought up. Whoop. But first you need to work on your chakra control." Naruto moaned. "Kakashi, you may practice that jutsu, but don't go too far with it. I'll watch until Naruto's finished her chakra exercise, but when I'm gone, remember to stop when you need to." Kakashi looked away. "I know you want to complete it, but it causes a great strain on your arm. It's too dangerous." At this, Obito clenched his fist, which didn't go unnoticed by Naruto. She raised a brow, and when the others were busy, she brought him farther away from them so that they wouldn't be able to listen. Obito looked away when she asked him what was wrong. "Obito?" His fists shook as he brought his eyes to meet hers. "If I had died, Kakashi would have gotten my eye, right? He would have been more carefree, and he would have been able to use his Chidori." Naruto widened her eyes. "Obito, what the hell are you talking about? This isn't like you." He raised his voice and cut her off, eyes flashing angrily. "I couldn't just sit around and feel like I stole something from him, could I? That isn't like me. I stole his chance of completing his technique that he proudly made by himself, or be famed by all 5 nations. What makes it worse is that he tells me that it's okay, he's fine with it, even though he obviously isn't." Naruto had to strain her ears to hear his next words. "Me being alive only made him weak." Naruto glared. "Do you really think that? Do you understand?" Obito glared back. "Did you see the look on Kakashi's face whenever he tries to work on his technique? I have, before and after that incident. You wouldn't understand." Slap. Naruto's hand was raised as Obito's head stayed turned by the impact, stunned. The blonde felt her eyes sting as it moistened, but she didn't care. She needed this idiot to see. "You think I don't understand? Well, sorry to burst your bubble, but I do. Remember Sasuke?" Obito got out of his stupor and flinched. "Yeah, well, I was in his way to power, and I wondered to myself every single day since he drove his hand through my chest. I wondered if I was really a bother to him, to everyone. The burden I carry dies when I die." Obito's eyes widened as she let the tears fall. "I was thinking that the world would have been better off had I died." Naruto smiled softly, her voice lowering in volume, "But I didn't. I remembered my comrades. I remembered that it was thanks to them that I got this far, and I can't let them down after everything we've been through. I just had to get stronger. I got over it." Obito took off his goggles to rub at his eyes. "It was because of that that I got everyone finally to acknowledge me. I got stronger, both mentally and physically, and look how far I've gotten now. I got the chance to save the future, to give us a world of peace." Naruto shook her head and corrected herself. "No, we have the chance to make a world of peace." She closed her fist, imagining it grasp onto her words firmly as she smiled, eyes flashing in determination. She blinked when he heard the boy whimper. She giggled. "Suck it up. You're a guy, aren't you?" He sniffled and wiped his face with his sleeve. "I'm not crying. I just got something in my eye." Naruto smiled softly. "There's the Obito we all know and love. But still, if you're still in doubt, remember that Kakashi was relieved that you lived, and your death in the other timeline affected him greatly. Plus, you're strong even though we tease you about it, and the village would lose one of their comrades had you died. You have great flexibility in taijutsu. You can use the fire techniques very quickly. And the future Kakashi told me that you were a natural when you awoke in your Sharingan. You used it with great ease, despite it being your first time." Obito's face showed his shock, but he quickly recovered and grinned. He winced at the stinging of his now swollen cheek. Naruto cringed, and rubbed the back of her head sheepishly. "Sorry about that, I got kind of emotional. I'll go get some ice, but could you tell Sensei that?" Obito nodded, and Mock glared. "You owe me ice cream for this." Naruto snorted. "Yeah, I know. Man, Sensei's gonna be pissed. She glanced back at Kakashi, who was practicing Chidori. Anyways, you both make a great pair from what I have seen and heard. It's like you two were born to be yin and yang. Despite being opposites, you work like a whole. Naruto laughed sheepishly. I'm not making any sense, am I? Obito smiled. You are. He mumbled something she didn't catch. Naruto blinked. What? Obito shook his head. Nothing. Was there something else you wanted to tell me? Naruto's eyes looked down, before meeting his eyes again. Yeah, actually there is. I need to tell your clan about what happened. I need to tell Sasuke's dad. Obito sucks in a breath. You sure? Have you told Hokage-sama yet? Naruto nodded. I'm going to. The Uchiha clan needs to know. They're going to plan a coup, remember? They might even be planning already. Naruto ran a hand through her hair. She let it down ever since she time traveled unlike before and sighed. Well, that's all I had to say. I'll go back to training then before Kakashi blows up in jealousy. Naruto glared and pulled at her hair. Obito, stop. I admit that we had some awkward moments, but there's nothing going on between us. We don't like each other that way. She threw her hands up in frustration. Obito laughed loudly as she stomped off. It's thanks to you that I realized what I want to do. After Naruto rushed to get some ice pack from her house and back to the grounds, she guiltily handed it to Obito. Minato sighed. Naruto, just practice cutting leaves with your wind chakra and we'll work on the Rasengan once you're done. Naruto nodded, and went straight to it. As she expected, the first try was hard. She made 100 shadow clones. Everyone gawked at the sheer number of it to speed up the training. In about 10 minutes, she managed to cut the leaf until halfway, much to her pleasure. By a little over 20 minutes, she succeeded in cutting the leaf in 2 pieces. Since Minato seemed busy with Kakashi at the moment, she decided to try practicing the Rasengan first with adding wind to it. She got farther away from everyone else, going further into the forest. She made 2 clones, and molded her 2 types of chakra. Fuuten. Rasengan. The jutsu had made a large hole on the thick tree, sending splinters and large chunks of wood in all directions. Naruto jumped away as she brought her arms to protect her face. Once deciding it was safe, she let them down, and was satisfied with what she saw, until she noticed that the tree was about to fall on her. Damn it. She jumped to the side, just barely out of the tree's way. She let out a breath of relief before getting up, shaking off the small pieces of wood that had stuck to her jacket. She glared at the tree, before swiping at it with her raw wind chakra, grinning evilly when she saw it divide into many blocks of wood. That was how Minato found her daughter, looking like a maniac over a chopped-up tree. He rubbed his temples. Do I want to know? Naruto chirped. Nope. Minato couldn't be any more proud of her when he saw the different versions she came up with. Their surroundings were trashed, trees bent, blown up, and large craters were formed on the ground. Naruto panted as she collapsed onto the ground, tired. That's all I can show you for now. The Rasen Shuriken is too destructive, and it probably needs to be used against many people to show just how powerful it is. Minato shook his head in amazement. Minato-sensei? What is it, Naruto? The younger blonde sat up. Could I practice seals with you when we get home? She asked shyly, which was quite uncharacteristic of her. Minato laughed as he ruffled her hair. Sure, come on, we need to get back with everyone else. He frowned when he re-looked at how much damage the area had. Hokage-sama's going to be quite mad about this. Naruto grinned. She loved being with her dad. She remembered feeling like this with Jiraiya, like whenever he bought her ice cream and basically acted like how a father would. Speaking of which, Minato-sensei, when's Ero Sennin going to come back to the village? She frowned. I remember you saying that he was away on a mission. Minato blinked. Oh yeah, he was supposed to be back here right about now. He was supposed to go gather some information, if I remember correctly. Naruto whooped. Alright. Somewhere else in the village, a man sneezed as he peeked through a hole, alerting the women inside the bath of his presence. Rin. Obito called out as the girl punched the ground, which cracked open in numerous cracks. Rin looked up to find her black-haired teammate who jumped away from the crater. I need to ask you a favor, but before you freak, I want you to give me a chance to explain. Rin stood up straight with a concerned frown at the seriousness in his tone. I want to transplant one of my eyes with Kakashi's. Rin stuttered. What? Did you tell him first? He shook his head. It would be a surprise. I haven't given him a present yet, remember? It's perfect, and he'll need it. I'm planning on giving it to him after I completely unlocked my Sharingan, though I think I'm almost there. Rin sucked in a breath before exhaling slowly and swallowed hard. So you really want to do this? Her voice shook as Obito nodded. All right, Obito. Did you discuss this with your clan head? Obito looked down. Not yet, but I believe Fugaku-sama would understand, since Naruto would be explaining hopefully before I tell him. I haven't told her my plan either. I actually haven't told anyone about this other than you, since it was something I thought up a few moments ago. Rin furrowed her brows. Naruto would be explaining what? Obito scratched his head, explaining the future and all that. Naruto, we all want to prevent them from planning a coup d'état. Rin frowned. That might cause the clan to strive for more power if they know what would happen. Obito, as if sensing her thoughts, reassured her. Don't worry, it's Naruto we're talking about. She's good with words. Rin's lips tugged upwards as she nodded. You're right, she is charismatic. She must have gotten it from sensei. Charis what? Naruto was walking to the Hokage tower after training, telling Minato that she'd try and arrive home by sunset. She still had a few hours, so she thought it would be fine. Until she stumbled upon Itachi. Itachi, an unbelievably cute 5-year-old Itachi, walking down the streets with his mom, holding her hand with his small one. Makoto was kind and polite, recognizing her from Kushina's detailed description. Apparently, Kushina grew very fond of Naruto already even though it's only been a few hours. Chatting with Makoto a little or talking with the little boy didn't cost too much time, and they were about to go separate ways. That was, until Itachi grabbed hold of Naruto's shirt, blushing, and refusing to let go. Naruto thought it was very adorable, but that thought was overpowered by disbelief. This was Uchiha Itachi she was talking about here. Naruto used to view him as a cruel, murdering, psycho man before finding out the truth, and then viewed him as a very caring, kind, wise older brother. Not this unbelievably cute child. Naruto's brains weren't functioning properly at the moment, so she has problems thinking of other words which could have described him better, that cutely held on to people they've barely met. Makoto smiled sheepishly before trying to pry Itachi's little hands open. Itachi, she needs to go somewhere right now, and we need to get home so that I could cook, remember? Unfortunately, Itachi started hugging the blonde, stubbornly wrapping his arms around her waist. Makoto now tried to pull at the boy's legs. I'm terribly sorry about this Namikaze-san. He normally isn't like this. Naruto laughed. It is fine, really, and please call me by my first name. I'm not good with formalities. I don't really mind if he comes along. I can bring him back to your house once I'm done if that's fine with you. Makoto smiled. I'll call you by yours if you call me by my given name, and I'm really sorry about this, Naruto-san. But can you babysit him for a while? Naruto grinned. Sure, Makoto-san, my pleasure. Was what happened, and she had Itachi's hand on hers. Naruto heard whispers with something along the lines of, adorable, and, oh my god, isn't that the Yellow Flash's sister? She was proud that her dad was well known and all, but seriously, couldn't they remember her name? It would save them the trouble. And stop the incredibly unattractive eyebrow twitching she had going on. The two talked along the way, talking about their everyday lives, family, that sort of thing. Itachi realized that they were heading to the tower, but didn't say much about it, deciding that it was personal matters concerning the Hokage. He was very polite that it scared her. I couldn't believe he's a lot younger than me, but it was kind of cute on him. He bowed. When they arrived at the Hokage's office, Naruto grinned. Hey, Hokage-sama. Her wide smile turned into a smaller, sheepish one as she hesitantly asked, Itachi, would you mind waiting outside? He shook his head and bowed, again, leaving the room. Sarutobi raised a graying brow, but didn't ask, to which the blonde was grateful for. I wish to disclose classified information concerning the future with Uchiha Fugaku, the head of the Uchiha clan. The man sighed. To prevent them from planning a coup d'état, I presume? He pinched the bridge of his nose at her nod. And you're sure you can persuade them? You understand that there is a high possibility of it backfiring. They might use this knowledge and view it as an opportunity of a lifetime. Naruto nodded once, face serious. I understand, but I won't let that happen. Very well. As Hokage, I grant you permission. He smiled. I wish you good luck. Naruto rubbed a finger at her temple, planning in her head just how she was going to make this work. She smiled when she saw Itachi looking around as he sat in his seat, waiting for her. Sorry for making you wait, Itachi. Man, I feel horrible for making you put up with being dragged by me and all, so as a reward, I'll buy you some snacks. She grinned and felt relieved when his face brightened. I won't let you eat them on the way though. I don't think your mom will appreciate me feeding you right before dinner. She held out her hand, which he took automatically as he turned red and looked down, away from her warm smile. Naruto blinked, wondering if he felt sick. Odd. After buying some Pocky, apparently Itachi was crazy about them from the convenience store. They were at the main house's doorstep. Naruto heard some muffled voices inside. Obito, would you get the door please? That sounded like Makoto's voice before another answered, okay. Imagine Obito's surprise to see his blonde teammate hand in hand with his younger cousin. You know, Kakashi isn't going to be happy about this. Naruto glared. How many times have I told you that he doesn't? He blatantly ignored her. Hey Itachi. Did you meet her boyfriend, yet? Itachi scowled and shook his head, holding Naruto's hand possessively. Obito just laughed while Naruto blushed. Kakashi isn't my boyfriend, Obito. He's a teammate and a friend. Apparently the two boys weren't listening. The older boy was talking to the other all about her boyfriend, and what he looked like. Naruto glared at the two, mostly at Obito, but blinked when she remembered another reason why she came. Hey Obito, the boy looked back, surprised by her serious tone. Is Itachi's dad here? He raised a brow. Yeah, you're planning on telling him now? The Hokage agreed? Itachi looked back and forth, trying to understand what they were talking about, before Makoto called him in. Naruto nodded. Is he busy? Nah, I'll go tell him that you needed to discuss some important stuff. Naruto smiled gratefully. Obito went back in as Makoto came to greet the blonde, wiping her hands on her apron. Hello there, Naruto-san. Thank you for taking Itachi home. Would you like to come in? She bowed a little. Good evening. Yes, please. I just need to talk to your husband for a bit. The woman nodded, wondering what she wanted to talk about with him as they walked inside. Fugaku and Naruto stared the other down, the atmosphere tense as they sat on cushions with a low table in front of them. Makoto had brought some tea in before leaving the room quietly. Obito soon followed, scared out of his wits. The clan head waited patiently, occasionally sipping his cup. Naruto would do the same, face clear from expression. Fugaku had to admit, it was very unnerving to see this blonde child so mature after hearing her cheerful voice a few moments later. Obito frequently came around to visit, talking to the main family, and he enjoyed it in his calm, silent way. Obito had described Naruto as a cheerful type of person, much like himself. Fugaku hadn't expected her to act like himself, quiet, stoic, and serious. Naruto finally decided on what to say. After a moment of hesitance, Fugaku-sama, I need to know this first before I tell or ask you anything else. She brought her eyes up to meet his. What do you think of power? Fugaku's eyes held surprise. Power? Naruto nodded. What do you think when you have the opportunity for power, at a heavy price? The color of her eyes seemed to change from the wide sky to the deep ocean. Say, at the cost of your family? Fugaku's eyes widened a fraction. Power? At the cost of his family? This sounded suspiciously like. He narrowed his eyes. Are you accusing me of being willing to kill someone I love to unlock the Mangekyo Sharingan? Naruto sighed. No, I never meant to accuse you of something you haven't done. It's just, she pinched at the bridge of her nose. It's something that can't easily be put into words, Fugaku-sama. And before I let you know anything, I need to know how you would respond to it. Fugaku closed his eyes, thinking. I would choose my clan over power. Naruto hid her smile. That's good. Here's another one. Would you choose your son's happiness over power? Or would you make your son a mere tool for the clan? Fugaku's eyes flashed. What? Naruto repeated emotionlessly. Would you choose your clan's welfare over your own son's happiness? Fugaku closed his hands as he thought over her question. So you're asking me if I would choose the position of clan head over my role as a father? The girl nodded. I would choose my position as clan leader. I understand. Naruto noticed his shock and explained. My dream is to be the Hokage. I know what it means to be one. You have to be a good leader to lead your people. You have to be the role model for the children of your village. You have to set a good example. You have to choose your village over your own personal preferences. Fugaku's fists tightened. You understand well for someone as young as yourself. Naruto smiled. Thank you. She sipped her lukewarm tea, before putting the cup back down quietly. What do you think hatred is? Fugaku raised a brow, the emotion of intense dislike. Naruto laughed, although it held no humor. Right. Well, what about vengeance? Fugaku narrowed his eyes slightly. These are quite some questions you're asking. Vengeance is the desire for revenge. It is the desire to punish someone for what he or she has done, such as harming something or someone precious. Naruto nodded. It's a cycle of hatred. I've realized this before, after desiring for revenge myself. I realized that revenge does nothing but hurt more people, and it only renews hatred. This world is filled with hate, and still has seeds ready to sprout even more. I want to stop that. Fugaku sat still, stunned, at the words. He never has thought about this before, and hearing this from someone younger and less experienced. I've been through many things, Fugaku-sama. My life had many bad turns. I know many things that I shouldn't. I also know many things about the Uchiha clan as well. Fugaku glared. Is this a threat? Naruto blinked, and laughed. No, not at all. I want to save this clan, not destroy it. She pouted. I thought you'd understand that after all that talk. Fugaku sighed. I apologize. What do you know about this clan then? I know most of its history, legends, all that crap. Fugaku looked appalled, mostly at her vulgar use of language. She blinked, and smiled sheepishly. Sorry, I'm not a very formal person, so this is really taking a toll on me. Fugaku nodded once for her to continue. The Mangekyo Sharingan, the Uchiha and Senju clan's destiny. Naruto's eyes sobered. As one of the two final descendants of the Rikudo Sennin, I fought your second child, Uchiha Sasuke. I don't have another son, Namikaze-san. I believe you're mistaken. You'll have one in the future. Fugaku's eyes constricted in incredulity, wide open, and eyebrows raised high. It's possible. Namikaze Minato's Hiraishin, a space-time ninjutsu, is very much like a time travel technique. Summoning is also another form, although it uses another world. What evidence do you have to back up your story? She rolled her eyes. As I have said before, I know many things I shouldn't. I suddenly appeared a few weeks ago. I think it's quite believable. Fugaku sighed, irritated. Well, what do you want? Well, I just want to know what you think about things before getting to the point. She hummed, before deciding what to ask. What do you know of the Sage of Six Paths? The Sage of the Six Paths was the legendary figure who founded the arts of ninjutsu and created the ninja world. Why? He's more than that, but I wonder if I can trust you with this information? Her eyes turned serious, copying his cold demeanor. I'm quite loyal to the village, and I don't really trust you. He stayed silent, which gave her the signal to continue. You have some anger towards it, don't you? You believe that they were trying to put your clan under their thumbs. I was the same. They hated me for something I couldn't control, and I didn't know about it back then. I wanted revenge against them, to make them suffer as I did. But I didn't choose that. Instead, I chose to make them acknowledge me. It took me many years, but they finally respected me, and cared for me. They stood up for me against enemies that wanted to kill me. They risked their lives to keep me safe. She looked directly into his cold black eyes, seeing the shock. I know this is quite a hard thing to ask of you, but I want you to try that too. Fugaku didn't respond to her request. What happened to my clan? Naruto's eyes darkened. Its curse corrupted them, and finished them. Fugaku was taken aback. What curse? Their hatred. The curse of hatred was originated from the Uchiha's ancestor's jealousy towards his younger brother. Her eyes narrowed. The Senju clan's ancestor. The man sucked in a breath, leaning back. This was not what he'd expected. She knew too many things, as she said before, which supported the fact that she traveled back in time. He gripped his cup, and closed his eyes shut, contemplating. The fate of the clan rests on her hands. She has the power to let it be crushed. He has to avoid that in any way possible. How could we stop it? There are many chances all around you. The clan needs to brighten up, make them see light. Wasn't the Uchiha's strength their sight? How are they going to see the things around them if they were blinded by the darkness? It's time for this clan to move on, and the younger generations are there to help it. In the future, Shisui and Itachi will want peace. They were the hope of this clan, until you went too far and lost them. Naruto leaned a little forward. Arms rested on the table, when you all were blinded completely with the crave for revenge. Fugaku took a deep breath as the lower half of his face covered by his folded hands, elbows stood on the table. The image of Sasuke doing the same in the academy flickered in her mind. She sighed. You know, Obito was supposed to die from the Kanabi Bridge mission. Fugaku whipped his head up at her, hands slamming the table. How? She stared at his dark eyes. When Obito pushed Kakashi out of the way of a falling rock, his right side was crushed. Unable to free himself, Obito asked Ren to give Kakashi, who had lost his left eye by an enemy, his remaining Sharingan to make up for not giving him a present to celebrate his promotion earlier. Then he was saved because... Yes, he was saved because I appeared. I knew how to avoid it. Now he and Kakashi have both eyes. She grinned, and now the Uchiha clan has a higher chance of changing for the better. There was a pause for a while until Fugaku finally spoke. I'm grateful that you saved him, Namikaze-san. Obito has become an important part of Makoto and Itachi's lives, and I have also become quite fond of him. At this, Naruto grinned, as he had a hint of a smile himself. I have a proposition that might benefit the both of us. Naruto walked down the streets, sending a few greetings and waves to the other villagers. She was still happy with the results of yesterday's visit to the Uchihas. She lifted the flap of her favorite food stall. Hey, Pops, miso with extra pork, please. She grinned, hearing his happy reply. They talked a little while he prepared her lunch, and laughed loudly. Itadakimasu. The movements of her chopsticks shoving the noodles up her mouth were barely visible. She literally threw the bowl to her face as she drank the soup, and nearly spilled it all over her when she heard a voice behind her. Could you at least eat like a girl? She hid her smile behind an irritated mask as she growled, Shut up, Hitaki. She patted the seat next to her, Come on and order something already. He rolled his eyes as he sat, ordering the same as what Naruto was having. So what did you do yesterday? Your overprotective dad was pretty frantic and even came to my house for good measure to check if you weren't there. I don't even want to know how he even came to that conclusion. Naruto tilted her head in confusion. What did he think I was doing at your house? I never have been there before. Her eyes squinted to see his face. She was sure she saw his cheeks turn red. He coughed into his hand, looking the other way as Tucci laughed very loudly. Never mind. She pouted in disappointment, huffing, before remembering his question. Oh, I had a few things to do and sort of got late. I also met Itachi on the way, and he was incredibly cute. Itachi? Naruto raised a brow at his tone. Yeah, remember? Obito's cousin? He furrowed his brows, before blinking in realization. Ah, that brat. Yeah, that brat. She pointedly looked at him, or moreover how he seemed to relax. Seriously, if I hadn't known you any better, I'd think you're relieved or something. He snorted but didn't say anything, or she thought he didn't, since Obito had come in and announced himself very loudly. I finally found you. Did I interrupt something? His lips stretched into a wide smile. Sorry for bothering you too, I'll find you guys later. He sang as he walked away. Great, Naruto thought, now things are just weird. It turned out that Obito was about to invite Team 7 over for dinner, asked by Makoto and Fugaku, before he misunderstood Naruto and Kakashi's situation. After he informed them and was put into a long speech about how they weren't dating, they went straight to the house to wait for Minato and Ren. Makoto had also invited Kushina, and they were currently at the kitchen making the food. Kakashi had to admit that this kid was getting on his nerves. He glared back at Itachi, who had initiated the intense battle. If it wasn't for the lightning from their eyes sparking at each other, many people would have thought that they were merely staring. What's your problem? He all but grit out, which put a smirk at the boy's face. Itachi merely said, HN, and walked away, further infuriating the silver-haired Chunin. Naruto laughed nervously, slowly patting a hand on his shoulder. You do know that you can't kill the clan heir, right? Obito barked with laughter at the obvious frustration his male teammate was in. He wiped the tears that collected at the corner of his eyes. That kid's just precious, man, he choked out before going off to find his cousin. Which left Kakashi and Naruto alone in silence again, so Naruto looked at the pictures neatly placed on some shelves or on the wall to break away some of the awkwardness. After she observed all of them, she looked around. Obito isn't coming back here, is he? Kakashi sighed as he shook his head, knowing what that idiot was up to. Probably not. Naruto shuffled, a little hesitant, before blurting out, Can I touch your hair? He faltered, before regaining balance. What? He asked incredulously, wondering if he misheard the girl. Your hair, it's like, floating and all that. I never really thought about it much before, and I'm really bored right now. He did a curt nod before she grinned and ran behind him, reaching out to touch his gravity-defying hair. He stood as still as a statue, as she awed at how soft it was. This was beyond awkward. He refused to let out a sigh of relief when she finally pulled away, but groaned when he saw the scene behind him. Judging by her horrified face, Naruto was too shocked to let out a sound. Behind them were the rest of their team, and the main family. Kushina, Makoto and Rin squealed in glee, Obito's grinned sly with the camera at hand, Minato gaping and Itachi looking murderous. Fugaku seemed neutral, but when they saw the tip of his lip twitch, they knew it was over. Kakashi and Naruto wanted to cry in self-pity. Obito's grin turned into a feral, evil smirk, and now's the part where Kakashi gets chased by a fellow love rival, and the famous overprotective brother. Minato cracked his knuckles, the smile on his face obviously fake, backed up with an angry tick plastered on his head. You better take this part in high definition, Obito. I want good copies. When they finally settled down to have dinner, they chattered about themselves to get to know each other better. Team 7 and the 3 main Uchiha had many conversations, laughter filling the room, along with Fugaku's occasional chuckles. Kakashi and Naruto resisted the urge to slam their heads on the table when Obito opened his mouth. You could take a guess at what it was about. Here's another hint for the idiots that still don't get it. Makoto squealed again, and Itachi leaked out impressive killing intent. Other than the embarrassing details listed on Kakashi and Naruto's accidental kiss for the two mentioned anyway, they had a fun time. Kushina bawled, I can't believe I missed that. I wish I stayed to watch. Makoto giggled at her obvious distress before asking, who's up for dessert? Obito and Naruto shot their hands up and shouted out, me. While the others did the same, more quiet and calmly. The clan head's wife merely laughed as she went back to the kitchen to get the source of their enthusiasm. Everyone couldn't stop their drooling as the sweet scent of the baked pastry filled the air. They were overwhelmed by the aroma that instantly flew out as Makoto cut the apple pie, the fruit's juice spilling out as the knife sunk down. The guests clutched their seats in anticipation, clawing at the wood as the woman laid each plate in front of them. They waited until she finally sat down and thanked her before grabbing their fork and knife greedily. To say it's delicious was a horrible understatement of the century. The sweet smell and taste filled their senses as they bit down on the chunks of the apple and crust. The cinnamon-scented apples did wonders to their mouths, and the pie was pleasantly chewy. The occupants in the room were at bliss. The guests helped clean up, sent many praises and their gratitude to the clan head's wife before thanking the family for the gathering and going back home. I heard from Kakashi that you went to his house to look for me. Why'd you do that? Naruto asked curiously. It had been bothering her quite a lot, especially since Tucci had laughed so much. Minato spit out his orange juice before hurriedly wiping the table. It's nothing you need to concern yourself with, Naruto. Just a crazy idea, that's all. He chuckled nervously, what were you talking about with Fugaku-sama? He seemed less antisocial today, and he even laughed. Naruto smiled, shaking her head before copying his words, it's nothing you need to concern yourself with, Dad. Her eyes grew wide and sparkled, when can I meet Ero Sennin? The man laughed and ruffled the girl's hair, he'll most likely come tomorrow to see you after he reports with Hokage-sama. She slumped on her bed, draping an arm over her eyes. She felt giddy about seeing her godfather again, but also nervous. He won't treat her like a father would, something he did in the future, of course. It made her feel sulky and depressed, but she squished that away. It was fine as long as he was alive and well. The thing bothering her most right now was the time limit she had for thinking up of how to stop the Kyuubi attack. Starting from the day before the Chunin exams, there were only 17 months until the day of her birth. And also the day she might have to die. She noticed that her memories are beginning to blur at a rapid speed, and she doubted it was because of her forgetfulness. Her memories of her friend's appearance were starting to become unclear, but she could remember it again if she tried hard enough. She had asked the Nine Tails to copy and seal all of her memories politely as soon as she noticed it, which he complied rather grumpily. He had made a room to store all of it, and it was locked up by multiple chains and locks on the door. With this, she can bring people to her mind and let them see the flashbacks without having to explain for hours. It would make life easier, and Naruto felt extremely lucky that she realized early, since the important memories were still in great quality. Back to the main point, Naruto wondered. What would happen to her when her counterpart was born? Would she disappear, die, or merge with it? Were her memories fading one of the steps before she ceased to exist? I doubt anything would happen. The new brat might be different from you, since there can't be two of the same souls. Naruto nodded, that made sense. She had an idea of what she could do to prepare for the day anyway. Besides, she'll see for herself when the time comes, so she should just focus on what she has to do next. She'll talk to Jiraiya tomorrow and basically do more training what with the Chunin exams coming up. The other Chunin would most likely be strong because of the war. You better win, otherwise I'd be humiliated to call you my captor. Of course I will, who do you think I am? Kyuubi snorted as he rested his head on his paws. An idiot. Naruto huffed, but smiled despite the insult. It still made her feel giddy that they acted like this, like B and the Hachibi. She brought her arms behind her head as she snickered to herself. I feel lucky to be with you, Kurama. HNK. I never expected you to be the mushy type anyways. This is her? She does look incredibly a lot like you. Naruto stirred at the voice, before cracking an eye open when she heard her father's. I've been told that many times. She rubbed her eyes as she sat up and yawned, catching the attention of both males in the room. The girl slowly looked between the two, before scrambling and falling out of bed in surprise. Jiraiya laughed loudly, she's sure interesting. What's your name, girl? She rubbed her hip, knowing a bruise would form soon. Namikaze Naruto. The white-haired man blinked in surprise. Naruto? The younger blonde grinned proudly as she sat on the dark wooden floor. Yup, the main character in the tale of a gutsy ninja. Jiraiya gaped, amazed that she was named after something he saw in a ramen bowl, and read his book. He got out of his stupor as he took a good look at her face. He nearly recoiled in shock when he recognized that grin. He observed her more carefully, seeing the way her mouth stretched, the shape of her face and nose. Jiraiya looked at her hair. The way it flowed down to her waist was very similar except for the color. When she stopped grinning and her eyes were not crinkled upwards, he noticed the structure. His face turned serious, despite the incredulity of it. Naruto fidgeted under his calculating gaze, straightening her baggy orange shorts and getting the tangles out of her hair. What is it, Ibeo? Jiraiya widened his eyes, and glared at his student. Since when did you and Kushina have a kid? I thought Naruto was your sister. Minato laughed nervously, but it trailed off when he realized he was serious. We don't, not yet. Jiraiya raised a white brow. What do you mean? Naruto sighed, she didn't think he'd come this early and be so sharp with his observation skills. I won't explain everything, but I'll show you what I went through with pain. She turned to her father. Dad, you can go to meet the team. He nodded before disappearing, giving Jiraiya a sympathetic look. To what? The white-haired man wasn't sure. She stood up and walked to a drawer, getting out a brush, paperweight, sealing paper and ink. She prepared them on a desk pad which was on top of a table, unscrewing the ink bottle and pouring the black liquid in the lid. She dabbed the brush with it, before proceeding to write on the paper. She drew intricate patterns and kanji, impressing the other two occupants of the room. When she was done, Naruto placed the seal on the floor before flashing her hands into many different hand seals. Her chakras spiked and she slammed her hands on the now dry paper, the characters glowing yellow. She beckoned the man closer and placed her hand on Jiraiya's forehead before closing her eyes. Rin, Kakashi and Obito raised a brow at Naruto's absence when Minato arrived at the training grounds. Minato smiled. She had to discuss with Jiraiya about a few things, so she would be missing out on training today. Obito whined, it isn't fun without that loudmouth here. The other three coughed, and Kakashi's sounded suspiciously like, hypocrite. Obito glared for good measure, since he wasn't sure, before shrugging. Minato looked back at the direction of his apartment. He had been the first to try out the technique, requesting stubbornly to be the one to test it. Naruto had given in reluctantly, and showed him flashes of her life, and unlike Jiraiya, he saw many different scenes from various parts of her life. He hadn't known that the villagers could be so hateful. Through the various flashbacks, he had felt everything Naruto did at the time. He had felt the agony, depression, longing and anger she did. He felt the anger she had towards the villagers and desperate need for attention, something he never even had experienced. He could still feel it in the back of his mind. It was an understatement to say that he was proud of his daughter. He was proud of her for how she turned out despite the environment she lived in, the bitter society. Kakashi glanced at his sensei again, noticing how much he seemed to space out. He sighed as he focused back to his training. Even if he asked about it, the man would most likely shake it off and tell him he was fine. Jiraiya couldn't even blink, his body was moving on its own. He would have recoiled in shock if he could when he saw that he was in Naruto's body. He was seeing through her eyes, and was currently facing off a man who looked a lot like Yahiko, but with the Rinnegan. He felt the physical and emotional pain Naruto felt, and watched everything play like a movie. From what he could see and think, it seemed like he could hear Naruto's thoughts as well. He was in a destroyed Konoha from the future. Naruto was fighting Pain, who was indeed his former student, Yahiko. The real one was most likely Nagato, the owner of the eyes. He would have frowned deeply, wanting to know what was going on. This wasn't making any sense at all. Mentally, his eyes widened at the sudden, almost unbearable pain as he or she, whichever way you look at it, was enveloped in red. He felt as if he was being skinned alive, and realized that Naruto was, from the Nine Tails. Through the pain, he could see through the transformed Naruto's eyes that he was now being brought up to the sky, into a giant ball of rocks. He realized that Naruto was in the Eight Tails transformation, and was horribly close to the complete Kyuubi. When he realized that he could now blink on his own, Jiraiya was in Naruto's mind, where he could move around freely, but wasn't seen. He was like a ghost, he boringly thought, before realizing that Naruto was being influenced by the Kyuubi to rip off the seal. He panicked when she was brought up by the red water and was slowly tearing the paper down. He was immensely relieved when he saw Minato grab the girl away from it, bringing Naruto back to normal. He noticed the back of his coat, and blinked as he read the kanji. Fourth Hokage. Despite his deep confusion, his lips stretched into a grin. So his student did achieve his dream. Everything would be explained after my memory self reaches the real Pain, Nagato. He whipped his head around to turn to the 12-year-old blonde, glaring. What the hell is going on here? Of all times, you appear now? Naruto folded her arms on her chest as she tiredly said, just watch. He obeyed, much to his chagrin, and looked back at the two blonde memories interact. He listened to what they were saying before his lips pursed together tightly, as his eyebrows drew close. He turned to Naruto, as if trying to confirm what the blonde man said. Yeah, the masked man was the reason why my parents were dead and I had Kurama sealed in me. Kurama? The Nine Tails name. I learned about it not too long before I got to this timeline. I wouldn't mind explaining, but you have to focus on the stuff happening right now. Before Jiraiya could blink, he was looking at Yahiko with a Rasengan in hand. His mouth formed the words, give up. He felt himself being literally thrown at the enemy. On me giving up, Jiraiya had to admit, this teenager was definitely as strong if not stronger than him. To be able to draw natural energy on her own, to complete the ultimate Rasengan, this girl is a genius. He would have shaken his head in amazement if he could. The scene changed, and through the blonde girl's eyes, he saw that he was in a dark room before realizing that the walls were made out of paper. He could see a female in a long, dark cloak with red clouds, a red interior, and a chin-high collar, and soon recognized her as Conan. He mentally smiled at how beautiful she had become, as he expected and told her when he was leaving his first 3 students. He then took note of the man next to her, and took a moment to realize that it was indeed Nagato. The red hair and the purple eyes with ripples surrounding the pupil, the Rinnegan confirmed it. Jiraiya's mind stopped functioning for a minute when he saw how exhausted the man looked, and that was definitely an understatement. His ribs were painfully visible, and the young, judging by how Conan looked, man looked like a mere sack of bones. His lips were dry and chapped when his Naruto's eyes adjusted to the darkness and he was able to take a better look. The metal poles sticking out of Nagato's back made him look a whole lot worse than he already is. Jiraiya widened his eyes as Naruto's mind flashed his future self and Kakashi's dead form, wanting to claw away at the anger and hatred he felt from her. The redhead looked directly into Naruto's eyes. Do you hate me? You're facing the object of your vendetta. Don't you wish to exact revenge? Jiraiya and Naruto's mind flashed again, this time of the Pain's Yahiko. A cycle of hatred begins. I formed the Akatsuki to stop this cycle. Conan spoke. Even if you get your revenge, nothing would change but your own satisfaction. Naruto stayed quiet, remembering her encounter with her father. As long as this shinobi system exists, the monster known as hatred will not die. It will give birth to more pains. To be a ninja is to confront hatred. Each and every one of us fights it. Jiraiya-sensei trusted you to find a way to end this hatred. Naruto's hand clenched into a tight, shaking fist as Nagato's deep, dark voice projected, "Someone like you, who doesn't know the answer, can't do anything but obediently sacrifice yourself for the peace which I am about to create." Jiraiya noticed a spike flying towards Naruto from the machine Nagato was in, and he was sure the blonde did, too. He prepared himself for the incoming pain, knowing what the girl wanted. Naruto doubled over as the sounds of her blood splattered onto the floor, face scrunched up in pain. Nagato watched. "At this short distance, I could easily control your movements with my chakra. Rest assured I avoided your vital spots. You are the invaluable Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, after all." Jiraiya painfully felt the Kyuubi's chakra mix with the sage's, as Naruto's irises changed to blood red, pupils narrowed to a slit. Her whisker-like marks grew thicker as her teeth became sharper, making her look more feral. He watched as Nagato was overwhelmed by the chakra, alerting the purple-haired woman. "Nagato, what's wrong?" Naruto bent forwards again. "I came with the intent to talk to you. But I also wanted to confirm something." Nagato repeated, "Confirm something?" "I wanted to confirm my feelings." Naruto slowly got up. "If I stood here before my enemy, what would I do? I wasn't sure of myself." "So?" Naruto struggled as she pulled out the metal spike, hurting both her and Jiraiya. "I can't forgive you after all. Even now I want to kill you so bad I won't stop shaking." She glared up at him, as she finally tore it out. Conan stepped forward in alarm, disbelieving, while Nagato's eyes were wide. Naruto dashed forwards, thrusting her fist forward as she cried out. Conan threw herself in front of her childhood friend, preparing for the impact. "Even I can see that there's too much hate in the shinobi world and I've wanted to do something about it, but I'm stumped on what must be done." The flashback changed to Jiraiya, at the same place and time, laughing loudly and happily. "I'm glad I made you my student." The hand stopped along with the blonde's feet, Naruto leaning backwards, sand and dust forming puffs of clouds by her abrupt stop. Both Akatsuki members surprised as Jiraiya softened his eyes inside. Naruto casted her eyes down, hands still in midair. Ero Sennin said that he believed the day would come when people can truly understand each other. Her fists shook as her voice wavered. "At that time, I wasn't paying much attention." She brought it down, slightly slouching. "Even when he told me he'd entrust me with finding the answer, I only took it as a sign that he was acknowledging me as his student. Thinking back, I finally understand what he meant, that it's not that easy. Still, that doesn't change the fact that you can't forgive me. Words of forgiveness come easy. Love does not." "Yeah, you're right about that." Jiraiya sensei's words reflect an idealism from an era long past. It is too far from reality. "Didn't you say you would kill me, and bring peace to the world?" The orange tint around Naruto's eyes faded away, as her irises seeped into her pupil. The pupils soon shrunk back to normal, along with her whiskers. "Even if you seek vengeance for self-satisfaction, if that is your idea of justice, so be it. You're not God after witnessing this harsh reality. Could you honestly still believe on Jiraiya sensei's ridiculous ramblings?" Naruto's eyes casted to the floor again. "When I found out you were his student, I desperately wanted to ask you one thing." "What is it? How could the students of Ero Sennin turn out the way you guys did? I understand you aren't like the rest of the Akatsuki, who kill out of sheer enjoyment, but I don't know a thing about you guys. That's why. I want to hear your stories, and then come up with an answer." "Very well, we'll tell you about our pain." Naruto and Jiraiya were speechless as they listened to Nagato. All Jiraiya could think about was despair. He hadn't known such a thing happened to the three students, and realized that even if he went now, it was already too late. Other memories flashed through. Most were when he started taking the girl in as an apprentice, to when they went to get Tsunade. He felt how attached Naruto was to his future self, so much like a daughter would to a father. The last one, Naruto was 17, when she met her mother, Kushina. He watched as they interacted, before it started getting serious. Kushina told her what happened on the day of her birth, and why the Nine Tails attacked the village. Jiraiya's face turned hard, and stayed that way until he was the only one left. "Do you understand now?" He turned to face the 13-year-old version of Naruto, her face calm and emotionless. I made you watch this to see a little of what happened in the future, and what's going to happen in a little under 2 years. I want to save Nagato and Conan. I want them to change their way of trying to grab peace, but I need your help in doing so. How? Naruto held the sealing paper they used, burning it to ashes with her chakra. Her eyes seemed to shine more azure as she looked at the blue flames, before shifting them to his. I want to go on a training trip with you. The white-haired man's eyes widened, before his eyebrows knit together. Training trip? She nodded. For 5 months, starting 1 month after the Chunin exams ended. In that time, I wish for you to train me in the sealing arts, and to convince Nagato. I can't go on my own, nor can I just suddenly appear with a bunch of ninjas he doesn't know. You're the best person to go with. Would you do it? As long as we'd have enough time to go to the bathhouses, yes. Naruto's eyes squinted in suspicion. He never agreed so easily before. Are you sure? Jiraiya rolled his eyes, waving a hand dismissively at her. Positive. Besides, I'll take you on as an apprentice later in the future, wouldn't I? Easier to get it done with now, and besides, judging from what I said in your memories, having you around didn't sound too bad. It would also be good to grab Tsunade on the way. She couldn't help it. Naruto threw herself at him, wrapping her arms around his stomach tightly as she resisted the urge to cry. She missed her godfather so much. Jiraiya softened his gaze as he patted her head lightly. Naruto looked around feeling nostalgic as she listened to the waterfall, and rolled her eyes at the perverted sage who was discreetly watching a bunch of women playing in the pool. Oi, arrow I mean, Jiraiya-sensei. He looked back and nodded in satisfaction. He sighed. Right, the toad summoning contract. Jiraiya flashed his hands to seals, bit his thumb, and slammed the ground. In a puff of smoke, Gamma appeared with the scroll, passing it to the sage. He unraveled it before leaving the long contract on the dry, rocky floor. I'm sure you know what to do. Yep. She bit and drew blood on her thumb, using it as ink. She wrote her name neatly, impressing the white-haired man. Why would you need me to train you in the sealing arts anyways? You seem good enough to be able to make your own like the one you used on me before. I haven't seen anything like that. She looked up at him from the scroll. I haven't mastered it though. That seal was done with the help of the furball, after all. I didn't make it myself. I'll need it later on in case something happened to him. Naruto's gaze turned sad at the idea. Jiraiya nodded in understanding of what she meant. They were still in public, so they had to be careful of their words. Alright, so you try summoning a toad, and we'll have some lunch later after a while of training, got it? She saluted. Yes, sir. The two could now be seen walking down the streets. Jiraiya looked down to the bubbly 12-year-old who was ignorant to the whispers around them. Jiraiya-sama's walking with Minato-sama's sister. And they seemed like they were training. Well, duh. They are ninja. Learn her name, idiot. It's Naruto-sama. Said girl was busy smiling, eyes crinkling upwards. Arrow Senin. Can we go eat some dango for dessert? More rushed whispers surrounded them. Jiraiya bopped her head. It's Jiraiya-sensei, brat. He sighed. Sure. You'll pay for your own though. A whole lot more excited whispers exploded. Did he just? Oh my gosh, is he taking her on as his student? Naruto groaned as she patted her wallet. Aw, man. She tugged on his sleeve, her pout returning to a grin. They're doing a sale anyways. Jiraiya twitched his eye as he watched the girl vacuumed up the dango off her 4th stick. You'll get fat if you eat like that. Are you even sure you have enough money? Naruto swallowed loudly. Yup. They're 30% off today, something about the owner's birthday. She looked around. Oken. 3 more Mitarashi sticks please. The man behind the counter smiled as he waved a hand, coming right up. Jiraiya snapped his fingers in front of her face, gaining the blonde's attention after the waiter left the plate on their table. I want to know one thing before we do everything else. She nodded as she brought the dessert up to her lips. Was Orochimaru found guilty of anything? Her hand stopped, before she placed the dango stick back down on the plate. She flicked her blue eyes around the room, and saw that there weren't many people sitting close enough to hear them. The customers were also too busy in on their conversations, so she looked back at the man, her blue eyes reflecting the light. He was caught doing many experiments on clan children. He managed to flee from Konoha, after the 3rd failed to stop him. Naruto combed her hair with her fingers, running it down. A few years after Dad was named 4th Hokage, the Sandame found out about his lab, and fought him. Naruto's hands shook as she gripped her blonde locks, her face twisted in anger. That snake wanted the Hokage title, seeing it as power, but after someone else took the role, he found that he had nothing to gain in Konoha anymore. He wanted to be the ultimate being, and he wanted to be immortal. He experimented, kidnapping Konoha shinobi and using them as guinea pigs. The third found out, and fought him, trying to stop Orochimaru. Jiraiya's eyes held his grief as he tried to ask, is it possible to? Naruto finished for him, save him? He nodded. He sees a lost cause now, Jiraiya-sensei. I'm sure you've noticed. He stayed silent, looking at his reflection from his tea. He finally spoke again after a few minutes, his voice deep and low. I see. We'll have to do something about him later then, don't we? He smiled weakly, and Naruto decided to change the topic, much to his relief as they got up to pay for the food at the counter. The Chunin exams nearly take a month, right? Jiraiya nodded. So 1 month, another one after that, and then adding 5 months. It would leave me with 10 months before my birthday. Jiraiya understood what she meant. We're on a tight schedule then, huh? Wish we could have had at least 2 full years. He sighed dramatically, there goes my research time. The girl huffed while they walked out of the store. You aren't even writing the books yet, but you still call peeping on women in baths research. Well, a surprised, familiar voice cut him off. Jiraiya-sensei? Naruto? The two turned to see Minato along with Rin, Obito and Kakashi, who all bowed their heads in respect. Naruto grinned as she waved a hand, Rin smiled and Obito waving back. The blonde looked at Kakashi, yo. The silver-headed boy raised a brow, hey? Naruto rolled her eyes, geez, man. It's what you used to say to me before, but when I say it, all you say in response is a, hey. She flicked his forehead protector and withdrew her hand before he could slap it away in retort. So what were you guys doing? Obito drawled, training, as usual. Your boyfriend missed you. Kakashi glared, as Rin giggled. Naruto whacked his arm. Seriously, Obito, it's getting old. We don't like each other like that. Kakashi was glad he had a mask on. He was sure he felt his lips form a frown. He furrowed his brows in confusion, ignoring the bickering of his 2 loud teammates and Rin trying to calm them down. For the last few weeks, he was acting strange. Hearing Naruto deny they had feelings for each other got him to react in displeasure. He really didn't like where this was going. It couldn't be true. He watched Naruto bring her hands up in frustration, feeling his lips quirk up in amusement before he caught himself. Could it? He shook his head. It had only been a month since he knew her. This girl was his future student, and he was technically going to be about 14 years older than her. Besides, he thought, she isn't my type. That got him confused again. What was his type? He looked at Rin, before shaking his head mentally. He thought of her as a sister, but were her personalities something close to it? He tried thinking of characteristics that he viewed a girlfriend should have. Calm, organized, great company, kind, caring, a strong kunoichi. Naruto was calm when she wanted to be, was fun to be around, kind and very caring, strong. He knit his eyebrows close. This wasn't going as it should. He thought of things that he saw in a wife. Good housework skills, great with children, supportive. He mentally punched himself in the head. He doesn't know her well enough to know if she doesn't have these points, although he reluctantly admits she probably does. What was he trying to prove with all of this thinking anyway? Kakashi. Obito clapped his hands in front of his face, frowning along with his other teammates. Naruto's eyes looked up at him in concern. Kakashi? Are you alright? He blinked before shaking his head. Yeah, I'm fine. He turned his head around to look for the 2 adults. Where's Minato-sensei and Jiraiya-sama? Rin raised a brow. They said they were going to the Hokage's office to talk with him. Didn't you hear them? Kakashi shook his head. No, I guess I was thinking too much. The 3 shared a brief glance before silently deciding to not push him about it. Naruto nodded. So, what do you guys want to do? Obito blinked at her. I thought you'd jump for training. She scowled. I'm not obsessed with it. I think it's better to relax once in a while. We've been training for so long. I want to do something else with the team. Although it's also because I won't get to spend much time with you guys once the exams start. Rin pondered. Well, we don't have many options. We all just ate, training's out, really, what's there to do? Obito moaned, there's nothing. Kakashi sighed. Why don't we just go home? Naruto lightly punched his arm. That's boring, and I want team bonding. She suddenly grinned, we can have a race. Obito scratched his cheek, so much for relaxing. But that's the best we can come up with, let's do it. So where's the goal? Naruto draped an arm on Rin's shoulder, her grin growing wider. The Hokage mountain, on top of the Nidame's head. He blinked before groaning, really, Naruto? You're a slave driver. This is like Guy's challenge with Kakashi. They got into position as Naruto shouted out, 3, 2, 1. They all bent down, waiting for the last yell. Go! Rin, Naruto and Kakashi sprinted, as the blonde grinned maniacally. Now where's Obito? Gah! Thud! Rin looked back, only to see the boy on the floor, in an embarrassing heap. She looked longingly at the mountain, before sighing and walking to him. Obito? Are you alright? He looked up at her in surprise, before looking behind and glared. Damn it, I bet it was Naruto who did that. Rin furrowed her brows in confusion before following his angry gaze, and laughed. His ankles were tied together in a wire, making it near impossible to get out in less than a minute. She wiped a tear from her eye. How did she manage to do that? Obito tried to cut it with a kunai, Rin also helping. I bet she used a clone while she distracted us with the counting. Cheater. He glared at the floor with a pout, and Rin felt a little warm, fuzzy feeling in her chest. It can't be, right? Naruto was still laughing as she ran, equal to Kakashi, who was rolling his eyes. I can't believe Obito didn't notice. The girl grinned, it's 'cause I'm just that awesome. She blinked when Kakashi was gaining speed quickly. Oh no you don't. They were eventually pushing each other off, shoulder to shoulder, heads grinding as sparks flew and collided from their glares. They flew up the stairs, the movements of their feet pounding the floor were almost a blur. First, they both shout as they spread their arms wide, slapping each other in the cheek. They both panted heavily as they glared at each other, and broke into a fit of laughter. Naruto clutched her stomach as she wiped a tear. Why are we laughing? She choked out, continuing to giggle. Kakashi's eyes crinkled upwards, beats me. The joyful sounds eventually died down, as they lied on their backs, watching clouds, reminding Naruto about a certain pineapple-headed Nara. I totally see why Shikamaru digs this. Cloud watching. It's relaxing. Kakashi grunted in agreement. It was quiet after that, waiting for the other two to arrive. Naruto twitched, they're not coming are they? It's been about 5 minutes already, and Kakashi sighed as he got up. Yeah, he said simply, lending a hand. Naruto moaned and lazily took it, letting him pull her up. Kakashi rolled his eyes, before patting his pants. Naruto yawned, before she nearly tripped back with a yelp, startling Kakashi. He quickly reached for her arm, before her weight made him lose balance. They both groaned in pain as Naruto tried to get up but found that she couldn't. She opened her eyes, only to see Kakashi's wide ones stare back. Who trips over their own foot? Kakashi gave her a pointed look when they returned to a normal size. She pouted, shut up. She felt her face getting warm, and knew that Kakashi saw it. Kakashi tried to get off her, but froze when a loud voice announced their teammate's appearance. Naruto. I'm going to whoops. Kakashi and Naruto turned slowly to see Rin and Obito blushing. Naruto wanted to groan at the situation. Why did they have to come now? Obito chuckled nervously, hi. He glanced back before looking at Rin, exchanging nods. Yeah, we'll go and leave you two in peace to do whatever it is you're planning to do. They scurried off before Naruto and Kakashi could even have a chance explain. Once Kakashi soaks in everything, he jumps off as if burnt. Naruto lets out a breath of relief, and gets up herself. She was beet red, and was sure that the silver-haired boy also blushed under his mask. She pinched the bridge of her nose. We should go before Obito tells Dad. Kakashi turned unbelievably pale. They managed to find Obito at the streets before it was too late, and told him what really happened. Rin and Obito sighed in relief, before laughing outright, much to the misunderstood victim's displeasure. Rin tried to compose herself, biting the inside of her cheek. Now that I think about it, you two are always in a weird predicament. It's as if you're being matched up by God himself. She gushed, all you need is the red string of fate to pull you together. Naruto face palmed, as Kakashi sighed. Obito rolled his eyes, you read too much romance novels, Rin. She slapped his shoulder playfully, I do not. Besides, there isn't such a thing as too much when it comes down to romance. She giggled. Naruto quietly whispered to Kakashi, "I'm so glad I'm normal." He nodded. She blinked, "Hey, this is kind of off topic, but are you also judging in the Chunin exams?" He shrugged. She sighed. There was a long pause between the two. If it wasn't for their teammates chattering and the busy streets, it would have been silent. Naruto grew sick of staying quiet. "When are you planning to spend your 3 wishes and get it over with?" Kakashi smirked, "When I find a good use for it. I should have given you a time limit or something." His smirk turned triumphant, although no one could really see it. "Too bad. Ass. Loser." Naruto rolled her eyes, "So original." She smirked, "Not. So you've been called that before?" "Figures." Naruto glared, "Prick. So original." He mimicked, and Naruto knew he was sporting a smirk. "Not." Obito and Rin watched the exchange, before shooting each other knowing looks and crept away from the two. Naruto pulled at her hair, "You're so." She stomps away in aggravation as Kakashi shook his head in amusement and followed. The 2 weeks flew past in a breeze, and the Chunins of Konoha can be found at a training ground, along with other Junins and the Hokage at 9 in the morning. They stood lined up in rows on a grassy clearing, surrounded by trees as they listened to Sarutobi speak. There are 16 contestants, and would be paired to fight each other. "We'll stop the match once it's clear that one is the winner, and judge you based on your skills. Once we're done to one person, everyone is free to return home, and we will continue the day after tomorrow." Naruto grinned as they were told to sit back and leave space for the fighters. She looked around, before noticing that she only knew Rin and Obito. She recognized some of the others from the streets, but hasn't talked to them before. The blonde looked at the supervising Junins, and didn't find Kakashi or Minato. She turned her gaze back to the matches, before Obito was called up. Uchiha Obito and Nakayoshi Akira. Obito knit his eyebrows down in determination as he watched his opponent step up along with him. He had dark brown hair tied up to a high ponytail that reached to his waist, and black eyes. He wore a gray yukata-styled shirt, the obi was black, and white pants, along with the standard blue ninja sandals. Akira tilted his head down, and Obito nodded back. "Start." The two jumped back, waiting for the other to attack first. When it was obvious that Akira wasn't going to start, Obito dashed forwards, body crouched, as he brought a kunai in front of him. Nakayoshi braced himself, getting ready as he got out a kunai of his own. Clang! Obito pushed his kunai away, and quickly kicked Akira's chest, sending the boy back before he gained footage. Akira got up, this time going for the offending position, and they exchanged a fury of blows. Naruto widened her eyes when she saw a red tint in Obito's irises, but noticed that there were no tomos. Still, it was close. Rin saw it too, and sent a smile to the blonde, who returned it. The end of Obito's lips tipped up. It was getting easier, and he could almost see the next moves Akira would make. That meant he was almost getting it. The long-haired brunette blinked at the incomplete Sharingan, before focusing on the match again. The Uchiha's stamina was larger than his, and he was already starting to get tired. He had no choice but to resort to ninjutsu. Futon. Daitopa. A large blast of wind flew from Akira's mouth, aiming straight at Obito. This is bad. He looked around, before remembering, Doden. Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu. Akira blinked when Obito was nowhere to be seen. Right or left? He whipped his head to his sides, checking for any movements. Nothing caught his eye, so he looked up, and again, nothing. That left. A hand shot out of the ground and grabbed hold of his left foot before Nakayoshi could jump away, and dragged him down. Gah! Obito grinned in victory as he stood above Akira, who was buried from neck to toe in the dirt. Uchiha Obito wins this match. He helped the other boy out of the hole, and shook hands. Akira smiled, "You sure got better, huh, Obito?" "Yup." Naruto blinked before turning to Rin, "Who's he?" The brunette thought for a moment. "He was one of our classmates in the academy. I think they were friends before." Naruto hummed, before directing her attention to the other spars. Terada Rin and Uchiha Masaki. Masaki pouted, "I wanted to go against Namikaze. I guess I would have to wait. I hope you have improved, Rin." She smirked as she slightly raised her chin. Naruto had to suppress the urge to go up and beat the crap out of her. Rin smirked back, "Oh, I've improved alright. Naruto helped me, after all." That slightly made Masaki's arrogant attitude falter, before she huffed. "Start." Rin ran first, and aimed a punch to her face. The Uchiha dodged and aimed a kick as she bent back. Rin caught her foot, so Misaki twisted her body to aim the heel of her free foot to the side of the medic Nin's face. Rin tilted her head back to avoid the hit, and they both jumped back. Rin surprised Misaki with her speed, as she brought her fist up to punch her face again. Misaki, after getting out of her stupor, lifted her arms to protect it in a hurry. Big mistake. Misaki was thrown a few meters across the field, and was sure the bones of her lower arms were fractured. Rin straightened her back as she waited for the other to get up. One of the judges walked up to check on Misaki before calling in the medics to bring the stretcher. Winner. Terada Rin. The match didn't even last 5 minutes, causing whispers to erupt from the other Chunins and sub-Junins. They recognized that style, and Naruto heard Tsunade's name. She whooped and congratulated the winner, who smiled. Naruto was left for the last match, causing many conversations to pipe up. Everyone waited in anticipation, and wondered who she was up against. Namikaze Naruto and Uchiha Yusuke. Naruto looked at her opponent, who had spiky black hair, a little longer than Obito's. His eyes were black, and he wore the standard black Konoha-nen uniform along with blue sandals. His forehead protector was tied to where it was supposed to protect, keeping his hair out of his eyes. He looked slightly nervous, but kept a determined face. They shook hands, before Naruto smiled, "Let's do our best." She didn't notice the red tint on his face, along with other boys in the audience. The Junins shook their heads, before the referee shouted, "Start." Everyone went quiet, as the two waited for the other to go first. Yusuke ran up, and sent punches, as Naruto dodged. They exchanged hits and blows, dodging and countering each other's attacks. Naruto made a sheep hand seal before thinking the jutsu out loud. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 5 clones puffed to existence, before they surrounded the Uchiha. He got out a kunai, and sliced at them, avoiding their hits and blows. He managed to cut them, as they popped away. He looked back to see Naruto smirk, and was about to run to her, only to hear another pop and the sound of paper crinkling behind him. He felt a tingling sensation spreading from where the paper was, going all the way to the ends of his limbs. He tried to look back, but found that he couldn't move. "Hey, Proctor, I think the match is over." Obito spoke up, when he noticed the seal on Yasuke's back. It was the one Naruto worked on the past week, just finishing the day before yesterday. She had explained that it was based on the Nara clan's Kagemane Jutsu. It doesn't make the target move like the creator of the technique, but it freezes them, once the seal is placed on a part of their body. The seal takes the creator's chakra, and once placed on the target, it releases, the chakra seeping into the skin and muscles. It wears off after a few minutes, depending on how much chakra you make the seal absorb, after the victim's own chakra washes it out. Another way to stop it is for the sealer to take his or her chakra back from the seal. Naruto had also explained that if she used the furball's chakra and altered the seal slightly, she could burst the target's chakra coils, effectively stopping him or her from ever using chakra again. Rin added more medical details, most of them he couldn't get, saying that the victim could die from losing all of his or her chakra. Naruto is someone you would never want to face as an enemy. Alright, winner is Namikaze Naruto. There was a round of applause as Naruto's clone sheepishly removed the seal, letting the boy move again. They shook hands, as Naruto gave a sincere, apologetic smile, "Sorry about that." "No hard feelings?" Yusuke chuckled before shaking his head. The people who lost went back to where the proctors are, as the people left over were nervously waiting to be called up. Naruto blinked, and remembered that she could practice Sage Mode as she sat down to wait. She frowned slightly, wondering if she should. She shook her head after a minute of thinking, deciding that she would want to use it against someone she was sure she'll have a tough time against. The element of surprise is her specialty, after all. She grinned to herself, as her former sensei's voice rang in her head. Konoha's #1 unpredictable, knuckle-headed ninja. She blinked when she felt the many stares sent her way, but shook it off. For the third match, she was called out, along with someone she didn't expect to be paired up to. Namikaze Naruto against Uchiha Obito. Said Chunins blinked as they looked at each other, before walking up. Naruto grinned at her teammate, who returned it. She raised her fist to him, "You better give me a good fight." Obito's face was set in determination, much like Naruto's own, as he bumped his fist to hers. Of course. Don't make a big deal out of it and cry when I win. Kakashi would kill me. The blonde rolled her eyes and ignored the last part. I won't. I'll be the one beating your butt to the ground. She quickly changed her words when she felt Rin's gaze. I don't go back on my word, Ibeo. She smirked. One of the judges spoke out once the two were ready, Hajime. Obito kept his distance, knowing that Naruto was best at close-range combat. He wasn't good with long-range combat, though. He was good when it was an enemy, he had many fire techniques, but this was a comrade and his teammate, as well as one of his best friends. He couldn't go overkill on her. Plus, Kakashi would maim him. And not to forget Minato. Then again, Naruto would surely win against him anyways. She even beat Kakashi, and had maybe a Chunin to cage chakra levels. And he wasn't exaggerating. She had been practicing all sorts of chakra exercises every day since she got here last month, never giving up. It was worrying, to say the least. He was sure everyone was amazed at the amount of chakra she had, the ones that could sense chakra levels well. Her stamina was definitely not something to laugh at either. With all that, and tons of experience, even Obito knew he wouldn't last. But he can't go down without a fight. He blinked when the blonde was gone, replaced by orange flash. Oh, damn it, are you serious? He exclaimed when he dodged a fury of attacks, surrounded by orange, and he was sure that she had used her shadow clones. Gah! He got out a kunai, before slicing and popping the solid duplicates, until he was the only one left. His eye twitched. She just loved being the epitome of surprise, doesn't she? He was sure she would appear again in her flashy, dramatic way. Again, Obito and the audience looked up at the sound of some boasting, and were blinded by the glare of the sun. Obito could make out a shadow, thanks to his goggles, before jumping back. Dynamic entry. Naruto shot down to where he had just been, forming a slightly large crater. The eyes of everyone except her teammates bugged out. Rin slapped her forehead as Obito did the same. The blonde maniac scratched her head. I was sure that would have worked. Whoa. She bent back, avoiding Obito's kick to her face. Exchanging blows, Obito landed a few hits to Naruto's stomach, much to his satisfaction. They used mostly taijutsu, before Naruto grew sick of it and was sure he was weary enough. Cage Bunshin no Jutsu. 5 clones appeared and surrounded Obito, much like the previous times she used them for. One of the clones kicked Obito, sending him across to another clone, Nah. The clone sent him to another, Mi. Obito coughed as he was again kicked by the third Naruto, this time being sent upwards. Ka. All 3 clones jumped up, before kicking him high in the air again as they shouted in unison, Z. The original blonde used her chakra to push off the ground as she jumped, slamming her leg into the boy's gut. Naruto Renden. The Uchiha was forced down, but was cushioned from his fall by Naruto's clones. He thanked them, before nodding to the proctor, who got the message. Winner. Namikaze Naruto. The clones disappeared once he got off of them, and Obito lost balance. Naruto caught him before he reached the grass though, pulling him up. Awesome, Obito. That was great. She flashed him a grin. Obito let go, and high-fived her, mouth stretched into a similar smile. Hey, although I didn't win, I don't feel so bad. He winced, as he felt a bruise form on his hip. Except for that, Naruto laughed sheepishly, sorry. As they walked to their assigned rows, Naruto tried to ignore the stares sent her way as she silently sat down. She sighed when she heard the barely whispered conversations. As expected of the Yellow Flash's sister. I bet she's still holding back. She smiled back at Rin's sympathetic one, before nodding to her, good luck. The proctor looked back at his paper, before calling out, Terada Rin and Akamichi Choujuru. Her small, shy smile turned into a full-blown, confident grin. Thanks. Great match, by the way. She replied, before going up against her opponent. Hajime. Choujuru was pleasantly plump, Naruto thought to herself, remembering Choji's reaction to being called fat. Choujuru had red-brown hair, which spiked around his head and was kept out of his eyes by his hide. He wore a red-colored, half-sleeved jacket over his pale green shirt, which had the Akamichi clan symbol on the front. He wore black shorts and the standard blue ninja sandals. His eyes were slightly crinkled up as his eyebrows were slanted down in a serious manner. Nakuden Sensha. He shouted out loud as he grew a lot in size, and was puffed up into a ball. With amazing speed, he rolled towards Rin. Oh no you don't. She smashed her gloved fist to the ground, forming a huge crater, making the round boy fall into it, unable to stop. Taking this chance, Rin dashed to him, pumping chakra to her muscles. She kicked him as hard as she could, the chakra exploding out of her foot. The Akamichi changed back to his normal state, knocking down to the ground painfully. When he propped himself with his elbows, he stared wide-eyed at the petite girl. What are you staring at? He would have turned around to see the speaker behind him, if not for the kunai aimed to his throat. Winner of this match is Terada Rin. Said girl put her kunai back to her pouch, much to Chaojiru's relief, as she lent a hand. He shook his head and got up on his own, not wanting to take the girl down with his weight. He smiled gratefully, thanks. Was that genjutsu? She blinked, before realizing that he meant the stunt earlier. Yeah, I made you think I was still there, when in reality I was running behind you. She rubbed the back of her neck guiltily, something she caught after being with Naruto for a while. Ah, but that was great. He grinned, it was my fault for not training enough. Rin was about to disagree out of modesty, but was cut off by the main proctor. Now is the second last part for this course of the exams. The remaining 4, please stand back, and the others, please go to the judging area. The 4 sat in a line, leaving a lot of space for the fights. Naruto looked around her to see the survivors. To her left was a Hyuga boy, probably the same age as her, who was dressed much like Neji did when he was 13. To her right were the 2 other contestants, one of them being Rin. The other, sitting right next to her, was an Uchiha, judging by the painfully obvious Uchiha crest on his back. Uchiha Kazuki against Namikaze Naruto. Oh, so his name was Kazuki. She blinked, is he Yasuke's brother? They did look quite alike. The only difference is that Kazuki had brown hair, and his eye shape was slightly more sharper. He seemed to be cold, and was quiet, unlike Yusuke, who was slightly more open. Yusuke seemed like the shy type, while he was just distant. Are you Yasuke's brother? Naruto asked, curious. Yes, he's my little brother. Ah. She got into position, and waited for the proctor to call out. Hajime. Naruto started first, surprising Kazuki, and flashed behind him. He turned a little too late, and was kicked across the field, before jumping back up and was ready to fight. Kazuki's face was blank as he searched through the green, looking for any signs of sunny colors. He heard some rustling of cloth behind him, and ducked under the outstretched leg. He grabbed the ankle, and threw her to a nearby tree. Naruto yelped, but was able to attach her feet onto the bark, gracefully landing on the ground much to her relief. She frowned, feeling his eyes watch her every movement. Kage Bunshin. 10 clones appeared, before surrounding her, as she hurriedly got out a small scroll. The extra Narutos attacked Kazuki, effectively distracting him. Choju Giga. 2 medium-sized lions formed as it jumped out of the paper, and charged to the Uchiha, helping the clones. Naruto blinked when she saw the red eyes, both adorned with 1 tomo. Kazuki dispelled all of them, the 2 beasts splattering to ink on the ground. The Sharingan, She smirked, slightly startling Kazuki. People usually pale at the sight of those eyes, but she was just amused? Hey, he smirked back, interesting. He punched and kicked, dodging the expected attempts of hits. Until she did a 180, and random attacks were sent his way. What? He was stunned, he couldn't anticipate her movements at all. Naruto used Lee's way of fighting, her speed being kicked up a notch as she naturally did what she felt like doing. She didn't think, just acted. Something she was good at. She sent him whirling to a tree, his back smashed into the wood, before he crumpled onto the grass. The proctors, again, amazed. Just what couldn't she do? Naruto grinned tiredly, as she helped the boy up before the medic nins took him, tending to some of his bruises. She didn't have much chakra left, but enough to probably make about 30 shadow clones maximum. That meant she had to finish her next fight quickly. Hyuga Kuhei against Terada Rin. Kohei's clothes were different, but other than that, he was like a mini Neji. He wore a brown, long-sleeved shirt, along with black khaki pants, and black ninja sandals. His hair was tied at the end, and he wore his Hite 8 on his forehead. Now that Naruto thought about it, many people wore the protectors like that in this timeline. She shook her head, remembering that she still had the final match. Sorry, Ren. Naruto thought as she sat still, closing her eyes. It looks like I'll have to miss your fight. Rin furrowed her brows worriedly as she recalled the gentle fist style, which uses the Byakugan to view the opponent's chakra pathway system and deal precise blows to disable and impede the flow of chakra. That meant taijutsu and close-range combat wasn't an option, which was bad for her. Oh well, she thought with a slight smirk, I have other ways. Hajime. Kuhei ran straight for her, Byakugan ready. She jumped back a few meters, before channeling her chakra to her hands, before reaching down to the ground. Naruto grinned, as others watched in horror. The small girl grabbed a chunk of earth, almost half her size, and threw it straight to her opponent. His face blanched, before he dodged the large ball of dirt, missing it by mere centimeters. Kuhei turned back to the girl, slipping back into his stance. He started running again, dodging the smaller boulders, before finally managing to get close enough. The nerves on his temple stood out, as he focused on the chakra points. Rin knew this was bad. Very bad. She felt the tingling sensation as he needled his chakra through her skin with his fingers, as she tried to dodge with the best of her ability. This wasn't going to be her match, and she won't be able to fight Naruto in the end. But that doesn't mean she'll let him go without a scratch. With new determination, she threw punches to his arms and face fast enough so that he couldn't dodge. Kuhei coughed up blood as he doubled over, panting harshly. His arms were numb and wobbly from blocking his face from the girl's wrath. Rin was about to land a final punch, until she collapsed on her knees. She looked down at herself to see the red splotches covering her skin, and the match was already over. Medics rushed to their sides, hands glowing green. Everyone whispered excitedly as they heard the proctor speak. As the final round of this part of the exam, Namikaze Naruto would fight Hyuga Kuhei. Naruto got up, an orange tint shadowing around her eyes, as she flexed her fingers and tightened her forehead protector. She readjusted her long bangs, tucking them in. Kuhei merely raised a brow at her new makeup style, but didn't question it. Luckily, he saved enough chakra, and he wasn't willing to lose. Fixed up, he stood and prepared himself for the match. He had one more trick up his sleeve. Hajime. Naruto dashed for it, as she raised her fists. Kuhei managed to dodge, but was still blown by the hit, as he gingerly held his slightly swelling cheek. She missed, and yet I got hit? Naruto smirked, before aiming another punch to his face. His face flipped to the side from the impact, despite the absence of skin contact. The Hyuga glared, and jabbed his fingers to her tenketsu points. Naruto choked, as she tried to jump back from the sudden flurry of pokes and sparks. She growled, fighting a Hyuga is a pain. Neji was a major pain in the ass though. She stood back up slowly, ignoring his annoying, preposterous, as she regained her balance on her feet. She channeled the sage chakra, and mixed some of Kyuubi's chakra in. The red chakra flipped around her, twisting and turning around her as she dashed to the boy. "Ha!" she shouted as she punched him, and this time, Kuhei crouched down, remembering that she didn't need skin contact to land a blow. Naruto smirked before ramming her leg into his gut, ignoring the way he choked and half flew, half stumbled across the grass. Kuhei drowsily got up, trying to regain balance. Naruto didn't take her chances, as she tried to finish this off. She got out a seal from her pouch, one that was already prepared, as she whispered the name of the technique and ran to the Hyuga. Kuhei braced himself, before noticing the slip of paper in her hands. He cursed, before trying to get some distance between them, despite knowing he was very weakened and slow from the last attack. Naruto catched him barely sticking the seal on him before he froze. It was the same seal used earlier on Yusuke, he realized. They all waited, and waited until the proctors were sure he wasn't able to move. They looked at her in disbelief, before one of them called the end of the match. Winner. Namikaze Naruto. Naruto had to force a smile on her face as she accepted and thanked the people who praised her and commented on her performance. She tried not to let it falter when they would say, as expected of the Minato-sama's sister. Or something along those lines. She was really not used to the praises, and squirmed at the attention. Funny, her old childhood self would have loved it. She sighed as she placed her pouch on top of the shoe cupboard. Tadaima. Welcome back. Kushina's here, Naruto. Minato appeared along with an overly excited redhead. Naruto immediately grinned. I got top place in the sparring tournament. They beamed in pride, Kushina embracing her to a tight hug as Minato patted her on the back. Naruto forgot about her tiredness and soaked in the affection for all it's worth. Kushina stayed for dinner, her and Naruto cooked as Minato tidied up the house. The redhead grinned widely the whole time, feeling like a mother cooking with her daughter. Naruto looked a lot like she did, too. It was nagging her at the back of her mind. Makoto had told her the same thing, saying that they looked so similar, that it was unbelievable. Kushina One-chan? The woman blinked, before looking down at the blonde. She shook her head, smiling. Naruto frowned, but didn't question it, and smiled back. They continued with the meal, and served. Minato knew he was drooling. The yellow flash, and future fourth Hokage was drooling. But he couldn't help it. The sight of the brilliant, shiny chicken practically sparkled, and he could smell it all the way from the bedrooms, even with the doors closed. It smelled so good. Itadakimasu. The three chorused, before digging in their forks and knives into the meat. Minato drooled again at the sight of the juice dripping out of the chicken. He took a bite, and the taste exploded in his mouth. He continued to chow it down hungrily, as Naruto and Kushina watched in amusement. He shook his head. You two are miracle workers. Kushina decided to sleep over, since she was too full to go back home. Really, she just didn't want to part with her two favorite blondes, and they didn't mind, of course. They got extra futons, and Naruto suggested eagerly that they all sleep together. Minato and Kushina agreed just as happily, so now they all lay in a bunch of sheets and mattresses. Naruto slept cozily between the two adults, as they were cuddled up close together. Minato and Kushina had an arm draped over the girl protectively, and the three's faces all had a peaceful expression. They looked like the picture-perfect family. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.